Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Amish Aether, Giuseppe Montesano, Naughty Thumbnails, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMails24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fiber Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neeland, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Henrik 86, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
I saw the video on this completion. It's just interview of a flat earther,
Okay.
and of course, the guy starts out all right, then he starts saying some bullshit, and then what do you know? He was molested. So basically saying all flat earthers are molested and shit.
What? Okay, as we're recording,
Yeah,
don't repeat that, but fine. Yes, I got the sentiment.
yeah, they just spin it all of a sudden. All of a sudden, he's a kook. He's bisexual.
Okay,
They did the best job to discredit him.
I see. A glorified personal attack on a flat earther as an individual after he personally disseminates his kooky ideas. Some of which, from
Yeah,
what
he
you're
starts out all right, but then shits the bed.
sure, but from what you've disseminated, some of it is strictly speaking in the social norm, but yet being ridiculed anyway. You mentioned him being bisexual, so that's being ridiculed in it.
Yes. The way they presented this, yes.
Right. So, in other words, if you're a flat earther and you're bisexual, then there's perfect grounds to attack you for that, because it's not that you're a bisexual and therefore protected by LGBTQ. You're a flat earth bisexual. That's different. Very different.
Yep. Yep.
Yes, very interesting.
You know what was weird? Like, well, not weird, but very predictable. How come every time we watch one of these superhero team up movies, the Asian guy, he's the tech guy. The American, the broad muscle guy, he's the brute,
And the English guy,
And it's always
the villain.
yeah. Yeah, the English guy's the villain, yeah. But he has a nice suit on. What's up with you guys and being so proper?
I don't know. I wore a suit when I was in sales, where every other
When
rep
you
for
were a
every other
villain?
company didn't. So, I mean, maybe I can speak to that because I wanted to be representative of the company that I was representing. And because it was a very, very expensive company, or the products we were selling were very, very expensive, you had to kind of create that aura around not just the product, but the
That
company
illusion.
itself. Well, it wasn't an illusion because the company was well-to-do and posh and did have expensive, rich customers. So that kind of flowed through the company generally speaking. But no one else at the office was in a suit. I was out on the road, but I'm representing the company. So for me, that was the reason. But like I say, all of my counterparts, none of them were out in suits. Like literally none of them. I was the only one. But I come from a background in sales where every job I'd done, I was in a suit. So it didn't matter if I was an estate agent or a recruitment consultant or a temporaries controller manager, whatever I was doing, I was in a suit. Store manager, same thing. Yeah, for me, it was just being in a suit was just normal if you're in business.
So what's your dysfunction, Nathan? Why are you a flat earther? Are you Muslim, bisexual? What are you?
I'm a transgender Jewish Muslim lesbian, obviously.
I got a job. I came off the tools once and got an office job, where it was 50%. Well, yeah, 3-4 days in the office and then a couple of days out on the road. But I had to wear a suit and shirt and tie because I was overseeing contracts and making sure things were being done correctly.
There you go. You heard it. He had to wear a suit and tie because he was looking at paperwork. Isn't that obvious? That demands a suit and tie.
I'm not gonna trust a guy with the reports if he doesn't have a suit.
Precisely.
A suit
Who's going to trust a bit of paper handed to him by a man that's not in a suit?
But what I found is it changed my personality a little bit. I started thinking I was a little bit above everybody.
Did you feel a little bit taller? Did you feel a little bit taller?
No, I did. My family picked up on it first because I started speaking to the people I was sort of overseeing and dealing with. I started speaking to them in a little bit of a tone, and even my walk started to change a little bit.
You started folding your napkins.
But my family noticed it and they said, "What's going on with you? You're coming home and you sound different and you're acting different. Where's the man in the van?" That's what they used to say. "We want the man in the van back," because I used to drive around. Anyway, I did leave that job eventually, and now I'm back to being the man in the van, wearing work pants and sweatshirts.
We're back to the blue collar, right?
Back to the blue collar, yeah.
I like the blue collar work. So after doing all those rep jobs and managers jobs, like there was a transition point that I wanted to go into YouTube. So all the way through being a rep and all the way through being a store manager, I was making YouTube videos for like several years. And I was like, I want to transition into this. And the only way to do that was to do more menial work, as much as that might be a horrible word for some. But when I went into exactly you, on the vans, so I was doing blue collar work, delivering groceries, and that was part-time, purely so I could dedicate the other half of the time to making YouTube videos and have a soft transition. It's tough times, man. We were so poor. It was really hard. And we had to put a time limit on it. I was just going to say, we had to put a time limit. Me and my wife were like, look, this YouTube thing has to work by X date. And if it doesn't, you've got to do something else. So it's like, got to make a success of it by this particular point. Otherwise, we'll just go into actual poverty, not just really struggling.
That's tough right there. That's tough. Putting a deadline on your experiment,
Well, on my YouTube career, there was a deadline for it to be profitable. My wife was like, if it's not
You know what I
profitable
like,
by this
Nathan?
point,
What I just been watching. Go ahead.
I was just finishing off the sentence. My wife was basically saying, if it's not profitable by this point, obviously we can't survive. Well, you can't just keep pouring your life into something that doesn't give you a return. You've got to draw a line somewhere. But before we endeavour to do that, i.e. transition to full-time YouTube, for me, there's got to be a deadline. There's got to be a point that we say, no, at this point we stop, or I stop, because it hasn't been successful. Obviously it has, but it's just remained on the scraping by point for the whole time.
I was going to say, you know what I like on TikTok? I follow this guy. Now, I'm not interested in the subject, but it's a blue-collar guy. He has a van. He fixes AC systems, and he does service calls. And the fact that he knows everything, Nathan, everything, knows how to give a price, a quote. He knows the capacitor of these. It's a simple once you're a year on the job, but the fact that a man in his craft just knows everything about one thing. He probably doesn't know how to fix his own car, but when it comes to the AC things, there's something respectable and commendable that I look up to about just a guy that knows his fucking job. Like the guy knows everything
Sounds like
about
you're talking about my brother.
particular thing. Yeah.
Sounds like you're talking about my brother. That's him with air conditioning. I hear him on the phone with people in New York what do you call it? Troubleshooting a unit from Alabama on the phone.
But what I am though, I'm more of a jack of all trades. I know a little bit about everything. I'm smart enough to know I don't know this information here. Like, a PC guy, I know most of the things, but then I'd probably have to I have a friend that does know. A rich man once told me at the casino, he says, not the grades you make, it's the hands you shake.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
not what you know, it's who you know. Yeah, that's very true.
Somebody
Everybody's
once
one
told me
meeting away.
It's 1% knowledge and 99% bullshit. Is all you need.
And here's the thing too. He said, that blue collar guy that I look up to, or just I respect, probably doesn't have that many phone numbers in his thing, because he's so focused on one thing. Basically telling me, you'll never have it all, kid. I pride myself on knowing a lot of things, man. But am I specialized in one thing? No, man. And that's what I yearn for. Like, man, if I was an expert in one thing, I think that'd be real cool. But I'm like, nah. But I'm more resourceful than these blue collar guys. Why? Because I'm not, milling away at that one trade.
Well,
Before
it really
as fun
says
as it is to
something
talk
about
about
your field.
sorry to interrupt. As much as it's fun to talk about our respective trades or previous trades, I was kind of hoping it would link back into what we do here. But it didn't. So just want to kind of hopefully curtail it back into what we do here.
I was trying to.
Good morning.
Hey, D Rose.
Jack of all trades.
What's up, John? What was John gonna say?
I was going to actually try to link it back because if it's about who you know, then your job isn't important. You don't matter. You're dependent upon other people accepting that you're important, but you serve no purpose. Here, it's about the information. Nobody really cares who you are. So if your information is correct, you'll win the argument. So, yeah, that who you know thing is only partially true.
Yeah, but most people, let's say most high earning people, make their wealth, their job is mostly just communicating with other people. That's all. Are they doing something? Probably not. They're probably just informing one person about another person, and that's pretty much how they go about their day.
Well, I mean, you can
Right, but
oversimplify a
here
lot
it's
of.
not about
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I was going to say you're oversimplifying quite a lot of things, but I think what
Like
John's trying to,
managing, pretty much managing.
yeah, but I'm trying to segue away from the job analogy back into what John's trying to do, which is say here, it's not necessarily about who you know. If I was best buds with Eric DeBay, would that make my flat Earth information any more credible? No, it wouldn't. Now, obviously, if Eric DeBay is currently in the process of telling everyone I'm a scammer, then that's obviously going to be detrimental. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it'll credit my information by being on someone's side, is John's point, I believe. John.
right. It's about your information. It's not about who you are, who you insult, or who you don't insult. It's not about those social things. It's about whether
But
your
that's the problem.
information is correct or not.
That's the problem that's here right now, right, John? It's if the wrong person says it, if a political figure says something, it's wrong. I don't have to be a barber to shave my own face. It's all about who
Right.
says it.
And it shouldn't be that way.
The messenger matters.
Well, on a
Shouldn't be that
social
way, though.
scale, yeah, to average normies, it does. It really does matter. In other words, if you've got Michael Jordan endorsing your trainers, your shoes, your sneakers, then they're going to sell because it matters to
Yes.
average Joe. Well, we aren't dealing with average Joe. We are very much censored from average Joe's view for a reason. So you've got to fight. You're not going to just stumble upon us, right? You're going to be passed the information on from a party that knows what we're doing and has presumably pre-vetted you to either have you have a nice reality shock when you get here, or because you're seeking that type of information. In other words, there's very much a path to us as opposed to a general politician's outlook on the world where he's just got a general overview of everybody that's within his political influence sphere, which is vast. Well, that's very different here. You know, if you get here and you're like, well, who does this guy know? It's like, oh, well, you're in the wrong place, clearly. And likewise, if it's easier to do the comparison rather than with jobs and people, to compare it to education status. Matters not that Professor Phil Bell comes here. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make any difference to the information he disseminates or the idiocy that he disseminates when he contradicts himself. Does it matter that he's contradicted himself as a professor? Well, for him, it might be slightly more humiliating. For anybody who's taken information from him and has read because he's a professor, it might be slightly more embarrassing. But does it matter about the information that he puts out there and whether or not it's right or wrong? No. His status does not matter. Likewise, who you associate with doesn't matter.
But you know, when people stumble upon this YouTube page, as I did before I did Eric Dubay, I saw this Nathan Oakley guy, and I was like, it went right over my head. I knew I didn't know the topic, but the size of the panel, like, man, this guy, if he's talking out of his ass, someone's gonna correct him and shut him up right now. And the numbers is what kind of convinced me, because I don't understand all of the information. I understand about 60% of it, but the introduction to you was so harsh. It was unpalatable, because I'm an average Joe. I didn't understand the argument putting forth. I just know these people have this ridiculous claim, and I wasn't here to understand it. And I think that's what happens to most people when they stumble upon this. The information is too vast.
Sure.
It's too
No, I get that.
complicated. We don't have.
Likewise, for me, with heliocentrism. So there's me, first foray into this discussion, and you come across Earth discussions, who occasionally gets referred to by Quantum Eraser as erectile dysfunction because the channel was called ED, or ED 2.0, or whatever. The point is that it was a whole bunch of ballers, pretty much like us. But ballers, it's the baller equivalent, if you will. But they're just sitting around chatting about how Earth is flat, and occasionally somebody would stroll in and say Earth is flat, and they'd just take them to pieces. Really easily. Now, me, I thought I was fairly well clued up about the heliocentric model and my understanding of my belief that I didn't know I had. So when you come to this discussion, you're like, no, I know my stuff, I know my space, I know my heliocentric religion, I know my orbits, I know my orbital mechanics, I know my Einstein, I know my difference between a horizon that's not going to be giving you an Earth curve at 40,000 feet versus a horizon that will. I thought I knew my stuff. Then you come across Earth discussions, and they're talking about heliocentrism at a level that, at the time, so far over my pay grade, it was intimidating. Because half the time, you don't even know what they're talking about. What half the words mean, let alone how it all strings together to mean anything. Very, very intimidating.
Don't believe that.
Yeah?
So the introduction matters. That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't believe that.
No. I didn't get to make my actual point. The intimidation factor isn't their fault that you don't understand what they're disseminating in Earth discussions about heliocentrism. If you don't understand advanced heliocentric concepts, you've got to get a refresher course, if you've previously been taught it, or an introductory course, if you haven't been taught it at all. Now, we aren't Introduction to Flat Earth here. Now, I accepted that many years ago. You can't both be open to everybody in terms of your ease of digestion. Obviously, I want to make every piece of information that comes out of this show as digestible as it possibly can be and as concise as it possibly can be, but you can't do that to the level of appealing off the cuff or off the bat to Joe Normie who's never heard anything about this subject. You can't be both. You have to pick.
Yeah, but they could put it together. There's certain types of language we use here that might not be understood, but you stick around for a while and you do catch on and you do learn. The housekeeping questions are educational.
Well, just think about Earth discussions, right? How many times when they were talking about orbital mechanics did they reference the plane of reference, right? Or talk about the plane of reference to get the measurements that they're going to apply orbital mechanics to? And nobody even caught it because they were intimidated.
Right. When they start asking you about how you're going to be getting an angle from a flat Earth, you can't get an angle from a flat Earth, and then they show you an angle that's coming from parallel lines that they babble on about for 2 or 3 minutes, and then show you a flat plane in the middle of a sphere Earth, and you literally don't understand the first thing about what they're describing when they just detailed this parallel light coming to the surface, transposed to the middle so it works with the sphere of the heavens. None of this makes any sense. But they're telling you, this don't work on a flat Earth. How does it work on a flat Earth? And because it's so intimidating, you don't go, well, you're using it on a flat earth at the center of your sphere because you haven't got a clue. You don't know your arguments. You're not going to recognize that they're using a flat earth straight off the cuff. And if you go, well, I would need to know how to overcome that argument, and then you come here and listen to us talk about it for one show, there's a good chance you won't understand what we're talking about either when we cover the same exact subject. So, listening in 10, 12, 13 times to the same thing being repeated is how I learnt about it. The very patient Quantum Eraser sat with me. Believe me, when people give me crap because he's being fundy muted or talked over or not being understood, people think he's not a patient man. Bloody hell, I can speak otherwise. For the level of patience he had with me on a one-to-one level, when I'm going, thank you for that 6th repetition in the exact same words. Now can you say the same thing again in slightly different words? Because I still don't understand. They go, yeah, and try and rephrase it in slightly different words at my behest because I still didn't get it after the 6th time or the 7th time or the 8th time. Yeah, and after about the 10th time, you start to get it. Now, I can't take what I've taken in from those lessons with Quantum Eraser, package them up in any other way than we do already. That's how we do it. Now, if you're, no offence to you, going to say, well, I just didn't get it as a normie when I first got here. Really sorry. There's not a lot I can do about that. Really, there isn't. And if there is something to do, I want to do it. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm just defensive about keeping us complicated so we're the cool kids with the complicated words. I want to make it simple. I want to make it appeal to normies. It's just most of the time, even the simple stuff doesn't. It's too complicated for most people to understand, even at the most basic level of the argument.
Not if they stick around. Sorry, John, go ahead.
I was going to say, like with triangles, right? Trigonometry is the study of triangles, and you use triangles in celestial navigation, but you're not actually talking about the height of the star. So it's not trigonometry. It's hard for normal people to understand that or accept that the stars do not obey our ideas of geometry.
Not to mention the fact that half the people watching you are normies can't remember what trigonometry is. Like they can't remember what science is. So they're trying to wrap their head around trig and go, oh, I vaguely remember doing this in high school. They can't even remember the concept of it. They've got a refresher course in the trig itself to understand how it's not trig. And with some people who aren't stupid, as much as we will call Bev stupid, there are aspects of what Bev does that demonstrate he's definitely not stupid. He does understand these concepts, some of which are quite complex. Yeah, when Bev gets here and goes, I don't understand why the ground position for the stars on the ground, you go, no, because it's not that simple. Yet you do understand trig, don't you? Yeah? So, yeah, it does need some more explaining even to the most advanced of us. You know what I mean?
Well, see, somebody like him, right, he makes the statement constantly that geometry offers its own proof, right? And the thing is, like, the horizon is not obeying geometry. The stars aren't. And if you have as the basis of your truth geometry, that's disturbing to you. It's hard to accept it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like you say, the world that presents itself to us isn't as clear-cut as being able to just put it down in mathematical terms that are nice and basic. There's only so far Euclid can go when you've got things that influence reality, not only from a quantum level, but right up to a visual level. So yes, you can literally have an alteration to the outcome of something based on whether or not you are aware of which direction something's going to be traveling in, or which direction or which path, more specifically, it's traveled through. In the case of quantum mechanics, that basic principle is advanced as with computing. So at a fundamental level, when you extrapolate that into the much more wider reaches of our known reality, it comes back to, does a tree that's out miles beyond where anybody knows it even exists make any noise when it falls? And the answer to the question isn't as you might expect. The answer is there isn't a tree. It doesn't exist. Until someone's gone out there and actually manifested that as a reality, what we actually experience only exists as probability until someone has information on it. In other words, information itself is the arbiter of a lot of our reality. Again, for most people, that's going to be so difficult to digest. You mean that there is actually
Well,
a causal influence in your knowledge? Yeah, absolutely. What you know affects reality. That's right.
well, the way that question's introduced is the informational paradox, because if you don't know the tree exists, how can you discuss the tree existing, right?
Exactly.
So a lot of people can't get their minds around that.
Yeah, deep
Uh,
philosophical
but
concepts.
Hold on a second.
Deep
Hold on.
philosophical concepts that translate into scientific validation that advances humanity. Now, while those concepts can be detailed in a way that is philosophical, you can also boil them down to cause and effect relationships that are useful. So, yes, it seems to Joe Norman, you might be listening to this like, what the hell are they babbling about? You're like, yeah, that's how it comes across when you're talking about quantum mechanics. Some of it's quite complicated. Far more than I can disseminate 90% of the time. I've got enough to get by in a conversation, that's about it. But when it comes to the visual representation, John just detailed the stars and the horizon. Perfect examples. Right? They don't comport with geometry. The majesty of how the stars behave is way beyond anybody's comprehension. We can track the patterns. Is that it? Is that what we got? That it? That's what we know about the stars? It's pathetic. Our limited understanding of the stars is sad. But with our...
Right, we don't even know what they are.
No, precisely. But with our really limited understanding, we've extrapolated enough out of it to find our way around, based on where they are, based on knowing where they'll be. You know, that's what we've got from our very limited understanding of them. Same goes for the horizon, right? We can make our predictions based on what the horizon will do, but it doesn't often do what we expect. We've got to mitigate for that if we're utilising it in any way. Meanwhile, on one side of the argument, it's a physical hill getting in the way with actual maths for it. You're like, that ain't the way the horizon behaves. Ever.
right, but even in their math that they use to claim that it's a physical hill getting in the way, they still have a differential between eye level and sea level, and then they calculate that curve below sea level. They still have to use a flat Earth for it. That is not easy for people to accept at all.
No. Agreed. But, you know, taking people into a different paradigm from their original bullshit that they've been programmed with for the majority of their life is just not our job, you know, and no, we can't be at the tip of the spear and be enticing people with a curled finger into this subject matter. You know, you're one or the other as far as I'm concerned. And that's why we can't necessarily condemn all the work of people like Mark Sargent when they're introducing reification fallacies and azimuthal equidistant projections. I understand from having the conversations with Mark Sargent personally over a table when I'm moaning about it to him, how he justifies it and why he justifies it. And I accept it. Yes, there's going to be a certain element of feast of nonsense that's introduced when you take someone from one paradigm to the other. And it's the only tools that we have if we're Mark Sargent doing that. So you have to utilise what you have at your disposal if you're trying to change someone's paradigm. It's not an easy thing to do. Once that's happened, or once you've braced against it, that's where we come in.
Right. Well, see, the thing is, like with the orbital model of the electron, right? I can say for a fact that is not how an electron works. There is no orbits. That's ridiculous. But if all I'm trying to do is teach an electrician how to work on a circuit, all he needs to do is understand valency. And the orbital model is the easiest way to learn about valency. So things can be useful depending upon your level of that's required for your understanding of the subject. So I don't think I would decry Mark Sargent either.
No, it's whether or not you work outside of the convention in most instances, both with Mark Sargent and with electricity in this example, right? So if you're using it to describe how someone can then perform a function and they understand the concept so that they can perform the function, and after understanding the concept, they do perform the function, then that's a success. If they take the explanation and extrapolate it out into a worldview, that's a problem. Yeah, same goes for Mark Sargent, where he says, this is how the world might be if it wasn't a globe, and then he presents an azimuthal equidistant projection. If the person who takes that information goes, so the world's that? No. The world isn't that. I'm just saying it's this versus that, so you can see the difference. You can see how that's globe-shaped and this isn't. But without the visual representation, it might be a struggle for you to even conceptualise something that isn't globe-shaped, because you've been so indoctrinated with it. Now, that's not even paraphrasing what Mark said, but when I pointed out that, it is dangerous to use things like the azimuth equidistant projection for all the feast of nonsense reasons we give regularly, he had a justification that I accepted, and I'll stand by it now it's been given to me. And I also have to accept that I can't have it both ways. I have to accept my limitations as well, when I'm not appealing to average normie who might stumble across us. The fact that it's so few far between anyway is, I know you've just given us an example. Is it Gene that gave that example? But yeah, there are going to be instances, but you're still here. You know what I mean? You're presumably learning stuff.
Good morning.
Morning.
I got your video for today,
Okay.
and you're going to love it.
What's it called?
It's called How Do You Use a Sextant to Measure Celestial Altitudes of Heavenly Bodies, Sun, Moon, and Stars? And there'll be a image there that you're very familiar with. And a confession as well.
Oh, this
The
looks like...
Brian,
Okay, this is going to be where we got some of these diagrams from, isn't it? That I use in my screenshots.
yes. But also...
I've already given it a thumbs up. I must have watched this already because it's got a thumbs up from me.
Well, I think I've shared it with you before in the past,
possibly.
obviously, but...
It must be because I've given it a thumbs up already, so I've definitely watched it already, and I've also liked it. There's a good chance there's a comment on it too. I'll have a look in a minute.
In the heels of what Brian was talking about yesterday, is the perfect video for today.
Okay, cool. Dip correction.
Yeah,
But now I know what happened yesterday. Ooh,
but in a different way. Instead of saying that word, saying it from the other side of the knowledge of what you got to do and what the sextant is doing. So you'll pick up on it. It's right at the beginning part. It's pretty solid, and this will help Righteous Force too for his question.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah. So the angular relationship of the sun, moon, and stars for celestial navigation and distances on nautical miles, because it's obviously got to be the sexagesimal Babylonian system because it's in degrees, minutes, and seconds. And so it's always going to be 60 nautical miles, whatever that area is measured, because in statute miles, it's not 60, it's 69. So it's got to comport to reality. So if, let me see if I could take a stab at it. John's kitchen, John was able to make it a globe. Okay, how did he do that with a flat kitchen floor? Well, he'll tell you that, or go watch his video. But if that ratio was 0 to 90 and then 90 to 0, the common point would be 12 noon or noontime, the highest in the sky time. So when the sun is highest in the sky, it's at its zenith over the earth. But if you're 90 degrees away from it and you're at 0 looking, to you it's sunrise. To you it's sunrise. Even though it's highest in the sky there for that guy, it's your sunrise if you're proper distance away. The angular relationship puts you at 0 looking at the noon or highest point of the sun, which is overhead of that guy, but to you it's just beginning of the day for you. And then when it's at your noon, it's that guy's sunset, because it was over his head, but now it's at 0 for him. But that's where you were looking at him. But now it's over your head and he's looking at it going away from him. So he can't see it much more, much like how they got flat earth angle measurements to Polaris for the globe, 0 to 90 for latitude. So then it's just how it goes 15 degrees an hour. How much does that cover? And as it drops in the sky visually, because it's going away, it's getting lower and lower to the horizon. What is that in miles? What is that in nautical miles? This is all that's going on with the angular relationship. That's why in the old days, they would stretch out their hands, make a fist at the horizon, and that's 10 degrees. The average hand was going to cover about 10 degrees. And then they could say, well, that star is 10 degrees above the horizon. Well, if they were at port and they wanted to get back to port, they would use Polaris because it was always steady for them. And they'd say, all right, the FIS, and they just do it and say, okay, we're at 40 degrees above the horizon is Polaris. So if we want to get back home, Polaris has to be at 40 degrees going this direction. And if it's higher, we're going to miss it. If it's lower than that, we're going to miss it. So this is how they did it before it became more of a routine now. So it's not for how high in the sky it is, like 93 million miles stuff. It's angular relationship. That's all that's being used for. That's why the trig is not for the actual height. But it's a right angle.
But obviously, when you take the angle to that sun and bring it down to the sea level, you're automatically then giving it a distance, aren't you, from the GP to observer? So you're saying the sun is that far, not high, that far away from you. You're turning it
it's
into
GP. Yep. It's the
yeah.
GP of the sun. It's highest position over the Earth at that time to you. It's zenith to zenith distance. Let's put it that way. That's why the co-altitude is called zenith distance. It's the distance between two zeniths, the sun's and yours. That's why if you don't use a sextant and you're on land and you could use a plumb bob, you're going to get that 40-degree co-altitude off your zenith. But if you're at sea, you can't use a plumb bob to find out your zenith. So you get the zenith of the sun over the horizon and get perpendicular by rocking the sextant. So now you've established the zenith of the sun, and it's 50 degrees above the horizon. Well, how do you get your zenith? Well, you minus 50 from 90, it's 40. And there it is, 40 times 60 is 2,400 nautical miles. So it's another way of getting your zenith without having a plumb bob to establish your zenith first. It's a zenith to zenith distance.
I think what I was trying to say was some of these globers, when you talk about when I say distance, I don't mean the heights of 93 million miles. This is some of them are discussing that because I don't know if Jeff Tribe thinking was on about it, but we that by doing that we're saying the sun is a certain distance away, which we are doing, aren't we?
Good morning. Good morning.
Hey,
Yo.
What's happening?
What's happening is we're going to be covering a video that we've presumably looked at least I have, at some point in the past, which contains a lot of the thumbnails that we use. So I'm going to bring up an example, right? We will get to this after housekeeping. Oh no, it's clicked on the video. It doesn't want to show it me. I'll have to show it in Skype with all your text attached either side of it, I'm afraid. But if you can probably see on screen now, right, you can probably see this diagram. This is taken from this video. And it's basically this mariner's description of how you do celestial navigation. He goes through every aspect of it, detailing it flat. And then at some point he throws up this diagram because this is essentially what would happen on a spherical version that doesn't have any flat lines to give you base for your measurements. Anyway, we'll be covering that. So in the meantime, we'll do a little bit of housekeeping if that's all good by you guys. So any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature.
No, there's no evidence of a hill that gets in the way. That's physical.
There's no hill in the lake.
Hello.
Hello, Arwin. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Why are you interrupting me, Nathan?
If
Sorry.
it was Chikey guy here, if there was scientific evidence, they wouldn't be saying today it's no longer true. It wouldn't change over time if it was ever true.
If you're a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, you can check out Chikey's reasoning behind getting banned, which is basically based on him lying multiple times upon defeat. So denying the very premise of the argument that he's having about a baseline. Celestial navigation. Yeah, that thing that we talk about all day long, every day. Yeah, the moment he lost and proved a flat Earth with his example, he wanted to literally lie about whether or not he was even arguing about a baseline. He did it 3 times, at which point I said there's no point having him anymore. He's just a liar. So that was why Chaiki has been removed permanently from this conversation, because there's no point having people like that. You know, I don't want my audience to be poisoned by liars who literally spend an entire hour obfuscating their defeat. So I took that hour and 15 minutes or whatever it was with Chaiki, trimmed it down to about 25 minutes of actual useful discussion, with me shown to be fast forwarding through the hour of obfuscation, with him just denying where he lost over and over again, trying to circle jerk back to points that have been conceded over and over again, Fundy muting over and over again, leaving protracted silences when he's actually heard the question that's been put to him that's devastating about how he's proven a flat earth with his own example. Silence ensues, followed by Fundy muting when I'm pointing it out, a bit like Arwen's doing now, like right in the middle of the sentence. No breath has been taken, but Arwen's persisting, just like he did. Go ahead, Arwen.
No, I just wanted to say that he would it would be deafening silence until you pick it back up to start continuing talking, and after 1 second of you picking it back up and talking, Jackie starts to talk over you, every time.
Well, I edited out the majority of the Fundy muting, leaving only the points. Obviously, there's got to be a certain amount of Fundy muting left in the edit, so it makes sense. So that was done. Took a long time to edit, actually. But I was doing that this morning, hence I couldn't remember what yesterday's show was about. There's another one to be trimmed out as well from the other guy that came along.
I watched that. It was a good video.
Did that happen yesterday? Did this happen yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's about time because as much as we like Chaiki type people coming here, if they end up just being a troll and getting that groove of theirs, it's not worth it. It's no longer a debate show. You're not dealing with someone with full cognition that's got arguments and you can hear it back and forth. That's exhilarating. It's just talking over, and once you're a troll, I think you ought to kick them out.
You mean same old Chaiki?
Yeah, same old Chaiki.
Nothing changed. Same old Chaiki.
Yeah, there's a long line of Chaikis that come past our path, right?
Yeah. This is just another day.
Exactly. There'll be another Chaiki on the horizon. And what do you know? There was in the exact same show.
You've only banned a handful of people because of the same behavior. I could think of Brenda. I could think of Rumpus. I could think of Chaiki. Who's the other one?
Virus.
Virus was the other one, yeah.
Well, exactly. They all exhibit the exact same behavior, don't they?
Yep.
I think one of your commenters made an interesting point on the member video that it almost seems like with these kind of globers that there's eventually going to come a point where they're going to be faced with either admitting the truth or lying. So it's almost an inevitability that eventually, if somebody stays around long enough, they'll be banned.
Yeah, for lying. So it's like when you're debating about a baseline and the invitation from Eli was to disseminate how he gets an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline. That's what the question is on the table. It's what the question's been for the last year and a half. It hasn't changed. He gets into the wrangle dangle, pretty much straight away proves a flat earth, doesn't justify his segue to Euclid by practical example, and can't. He can only measure a flat earth. It's a flat earth proof. It's going to be used flat when he does it or we do it. It doesn't make any difference. On screen now, where it says Flat Earth Debate Live, you've got the Dingleberry Earth dangling below a flat plane. You're going to use a flat plane no matter who you are. So when he comes to actually concede that, it never happens. It's an hour of obfuscation. But in between the hour of obfuscation, he starts denying the very premise he's lost on. Oh, no, I'm not talking about the baseline. Oh, those 2 points I was talking about, they're not the baseline. It's like his opener was to say, I want to focus on the earth, the ground we're standing on. That was his opener. But then it's like, what? Unless you're going to now say I was focused on the line between us and the star, which he never got the opportunity to do because I simply wouldn't let him. It's like, well, so your opener about focusing on the ground when we're proving whether it's flat or not, total lie also. In other words, it just becomes a web of lies. But the worst, the most egregious, is when you deny the very premise you're debating about because you've lost. So it's easy to what? Because you can't get away from the thing that you've proved a flat earth with your point about the ground, the baseline. Once that is highlighted, I wasn't even arguing about the baseline. Get lost, you are useless to us at this point because, like Banter just said, it reaches the point where they've got to lie. Because they can't relinquish their religious beliefs, so they'll lie for it. Get lost, you're useless to us.
I can't help but think that the other side is happy about your decision as well. He wasn't doing well for them, and it was like, oh, Chikey, don't go in there, please, please. Oh, thank you, Nathan, for banning him. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I don't want to ban anybody. I just don't want the conversation to be useless to the audience. And if what they're hearing from the opponent is that entire discussion at the end of it wasn't actually about what you were debating, the audience is going to go, what? That doesn't make any sense to me. Well, no, it doesn't make any sense because it's a lie. A lie to obfuscate, because he did it an hour after obfuscation began. So he's hoping that in the mind's eye of the audience, we're so far away from the original debate that it won't be remembered what we were debating about. So when he denies it, so he doesn't need to give his concession, he can move away from it. You're like, no. When we win, it is 8 years of battle to get to that win. You think I'm just going to give it up after an hour? No, I'll keep him there for an hour. And I did, with him fundy muting it the entire time so he doesn't have to listen to it. So he can put enough distance between his loss and his eventual decrying of the entire argument, like he wasn't even having it. No, I kept him there for the entire hour with him chanting and fundy muting till he was exhausted and saying, okay, just ban me. No, I'll force you into the position where you actually have to lie. Then I'll be justified in banning you for being a liar, which I can brand him. When he comes back, I'll go, we don't have liars here. We're looking for the truth here. Yeah? While you might mock us for it, when you overtly lie to people who declare themselves truth seekers, you're not welcome.
Well, my example was more like 2 different gyms with fighters in an MMA, challenge, and Chikey comes in, is just getting pummeled. The other side saying, "Ref, stop the fight," and the ref's not stopping the fight. And it's like, please, our gym's looking bad. No one's going to join our gym based on this guy's performance, and you just kept them there, and until it was no one's going to join that gym anymore.
Anyway, please share the show. So significantly lower numbers for whatever reason today and yesterday. So 60 people watching, where typically we'd probably be at about 100 round out now. So I don't know if everyone's got sick of sharing the show early on, or if that algorithmic love we temporarily got while we were attacking our own side because of their misuse of science, that was what brought the numbers in. That was worth algorithmic love. Oh, you're attacking flat earthers? Oh, well, we'll get lots of people watching. Oh, you're just talking about how the heliocentric model's absolute bunk and the people who come here to defend it are useless. 60 watching. Please share the show.
I disagree, Nathan. I think that average 20 to 40 of those watchers were all Chikey, and that's why.
Don't tarnish this with your bullshit speculation.
I'll add too. I don't think I'll miss Chikey at all. I don't think he really brought much to the table, but I do have to admit that on occasion I do miss hearing the rumpus just from a entertainment standpoint. I totally get why you banned him. His comments about the geometric horizon and his denial about stuff that he'd said earlier was egregious, but again, I kind of like to hear his little convoluted explanations from time to time.
Sure.
That's right. And that's why we should eventually have a petition ready to make Nathan unban Rumpus.
No, it's never going to happen. The moment you deny, again, it's where we got a win. We win with the Black Swan. What does Rumpus do? Because we've won with the argument. Denies the premise of the argument he had back at the Isle of Man. Denied the very premise of the maths he laid in front of us and was so bold to declare that it was his own maths that he'd done based on the geometry of Earth. Identical in nature to all other Earth curve maths, I might add, with a geometric limitation at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, which we debunked. What does he do? Lie. Claim it was always refracted. No, it wasn't. I was there when you argued it. You are a liar. He had 3 opportunities to retract his lie. He chose to continue to lie. At which point, he is worthless. What? I don't decry what Banter's just said. Very amusing, was Rumpus. Had he not been a liar and therefore worthless.
I get that, but you should really look at it slightly differently and just see that Rumpus wasn't as much lying to us as he was lying to himself, because
I've got a panel full of cucks. No, you are all cucks.
The dichotomy that he had created.
No, I won't stand for this. No. When I find out someone's a liar in life, I'm not talking about on the show, just generally, I turn my back on them and then they never cause me a problem again. Ever. And if they try and introduce themselves into my life, because my back is turned, they find it very difficult to mess around with my life. Very, very, very difficult. However, if I turn around and engage them, because they're either tapping me on the shoulder or like Arwen wants to do, or banter, no offense, my friends, chase after them, the bloody hell's wrong with you? You're half stepping away from tapping on NASA's door, asking them what the sky is.
No, but it's completely up to you, though, Nathan, because you could literally keep him in a cage, and whenever everybody wants, get the rumpus out of the cage, and then be entertaining, and then you put him back in the cage because it's still your show.
I love how Arwen's turned this into.
That's all it is.
Yeah,
Arwen's turned
well,
it
we
into.
need that too.
Can I say something, please?
After my S&M GIMP joke gets through to air. Yeah, Arwen's turned this into an S&M scene with Rumpus being his GIMP.
I just want to say one thing about lying.
Talking about teabagging all the time, Nathan.
When somebody lies to you, they're basically calling you stupid because they think you're stupid enough to believe them when they lie. So no.
No, that's projecting. They're lying.
No, when somebody lies to you, they're calling you stupid.
They want reality to bend to their will, to their lie. They want it to be real. They're not lying because they think you're stupid. They're lying because they want you to believe that which they believe and they can't deal with.
When you lie about your time on a job, you're telling your boss, you're stupid enough to believe me when I tell you I work 60 hours. It's the same thing. When somebody lies to you, they're looking at you like you're stupid enough to believe they're lying. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm with Nathan on this. So let's move on to with the show, please.
Yes, we've had it up on screen for quite some time
lying
now.
to themselves first and foremost.
Going to give up on this video for a little
That's
bit.
an aspect of it, Arwen, but let's move on.
Yeah,
Exactly,
you tried that. I've tried that. This is obviously not an exhaustive conversation, and Neil is keen to talk about it. So this is his realm. Let's have him have his opportunity.
No, I'm done. I'm done. I just said I agree with Tent. It's an aspect of it because you're believing your own lie. You're lying to yourself. Yes, we know. Rumpus is annoying. I was never able to hear one word. Every time Nathan tried to expound on something, he would rumpus. That's how he got his name. We do not need him here. Goodbye.
Mute.
Anybody else got anything to add on this? Go on ahead.
Yeah, I wanna debate with you on the video that I just posted in your main chat of Discord. That is a short video, so if you can play, because in your debate in 1943 debate, right? So in that debate you made a clip on me, but the video you was showing, that was not the video I was talking about. That was the same video. I posted that short video just in your main chat right now.
Remind us what the argument was about.
Yeah, the same argument of downward, why the helium balloon is going in all the directions, that kind of.
So you think helium balloons go in all directions?
Yeah, because I have the demonstration, and in that short video, if you can play, because what you showed in the clip when you posted that after with the debate with me, you posted another video that I was not talking about. I was talking about that video that I just posted in your main chat, and that's a short video, less than a minute.
Do you recall the actual point that I refuted your claim with? Can you repeat back to me how I refuted your claim? Because it matters not what video I used.
Yeah, because you think that if there is a downward vector, then the shape should be changed, then the balloon shape should be changed. But it's not like that, because the downward vector force that is putting that balloon, the weight of that air, right? It's very less. It will not distort the shape of the balloon. That is a matter. That is made out of a matter, right? Material.
No,
elastic material.
That was part of my argument.
Nathan,
thank you,
Chocolate.
Thank you for making this uneditable. Thank you. What's up?
It was the balloon in the vacuum chamber.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
No, that wasn't my argument. Part of my argument included the idea that you could have the balloon squashed at the bottom to example my main point, which was the balloon itself is a container, and the gas inside that container has expanded into its containment, which would be the balloon, equally in all directions. There is no downward bias for the gas that's pressing up on the top of the balloon, forcing it to expand out and up. The container itself demonstrates the gas is moving in all directions inside the containment of the balloon. Then I exampled, if it wasn't the case, then you'd have a downward bias. You wouldn't have it with gas going up, it would all be going down. But the very fact that there is a pressure on the top of the balloon, well, what's the weight of that gas when it's going up to press up on the balloon and expand it up and outwards? Obviously, there's no downward bias. You can't ascribe a downward bias to a gas particle that's pressed. I hadn't finished. I hadn't finished. I hadn't finished. What part of I had not finished do you not understand? While I reiterate my point that you failed to paraphrase. Do you think that requires your interruption, New Moon? I want you to try that again without the interruption from you? Makes me think you're not listening, given that you've paraphrased incorrectly back my rebuttal. So I'll try again. There is no downward bias for gas particles that are going up, pressing up on the balloon in its containment, the balloon. Your argument was to take the balloon, a solid, in a vacuum, and ignore the fact that inside that containment of the balloon, the gas is expanded in all directions. Fact. That was my argument. You failed to paraphrase it. Now that you've failed twice and interrupted me, I'd like you to paraphrase back my actual rebuttal to you. That would be that the gas is obviously not subject to a downward bias when it's going up to push the balloon up and out at the top of it. That's not a downward bias. You can't ascribe... Third interruption. You can't ascribe... Third interruption. You cannot ascribe a downward bias to gas that is going up in that containment of the balloon. Can you paraphrase that back to me so I understand that you understand it now?
Entropic principle totally addresses my point.
No, I'm asking you to paraphrase back my rebuttal to your point that the balloon goes down in a vacuum chamber, but the gas inside the containment of the balloon expands in all directions. You seem to have ignored it.
Entropy. I'm not ignoring it. You are ignoring entropy.
Okay. Your claim isn't entropy, my friend. Your claim is a downward bias. That's your claim. Your claim is not entropy. Your claim is gravity and a downward bias. Now, if there is a downward bias... Is it just Fundy muting every time I talk from this point forward, Newman? Every time I make my point, you're going to talk through the top of it at the end of it? Is that what's going to happen from here forward, Newman?
Okay.
Not okay. You are being what's known as an arsehole. That would be to say you're talking through the top of the conclusion of my statement every single time I make one. An acknowledgement of your arsehole behaviour would be nice before we move on, so that you can acknowledge you're being an arsehole and stop doing it. New Moon, I'm requesting for your affirmation that your behaviour, chanting over the top of the conclusion of every statement I make, is arsehole behaviour. Can you acknowledge your arsehole behaviour before we carry on with a reasonable conversation that's not with an arsehole? You. Can you acknowledge your arsehole behaviour so we can move on with this discussion about the gas moving up and pressing up that isn't biased downwards in the balloon? Do you want to acknowledge your arsehole behaviour so we can move forward with the upward moving gas inside the balloon, New Moon?
Yeah, that is because of second law of thermodynamics, the law of entropy, where what says that you know that you will know it's based on that.
So dispersion, gas expands equally in all directions.
Yeah.
So if the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would expand in all directions into the vacuum. We'd all be dead.
Yeah.
You were saying? Entropy, yes. So given that there's a law of entropy, gas would expand into the sky vacuum equally, like it expanded into the balloon. This kind of craps all over your idea that there's a downward bias, though, doesn't it? Entropy debunks that notion. But you weren't fighting for entropy, New Moon. You were fighting for the notion that we have a downward bias in the form of gravity. But obviously, if the gas is going up in the balloon, it's not biased downwards. Your explanation for that, entropy. Yeah, entropy would demonstrate that the sky vacuum, outer space, is fake, because the gas we breathe would fill that space, according to you and entropy.
The globe model, they have a different kind of excuse for that, and the excuse is like there is a gradient for that.
What kind of gradient?
So
gradient of what?
Gradient of atmospheric gradient.
Oh, that's an oxymoron. We don't have sphere-shaped air. That's an oxymoron. It's an oxymoron. Pay attention. Do not talk while I talk. That is an oxymoron. Atmo means air. Sphere means shape. Air isn't in a shape. It takes the shape of its containment. Like it takes the shape of the balloon, or it takes the shape of the vacuum chamber, or it takes the shape of the sky vacuum. That would be to say that we wouldn't have any gas. That would be you interrupting. Is this painful? Is this you displaying asshole behaviour, New Moon? I'd like an apology for your asshole interruption. Go.
Yeah, I apologize for that. But
For your what? For what? For what? What are you apologising for? You're apologising for being an asshole. Correct? Yes, fundamentalist religious zealot asshole. I am disseminating how your sky vacuum and outer space is fake. What you are doing is interrupting very rudely while I annihilate outer space, NASA, space travel, trips to the moon, trips to the ISS, trips to Mars. I've destroyed all of it with your own standard. That entropy is the explanation for why the gas is going upwards, pressing on the top of the balloon with pressure. You've added to that the globe model, reification fallacy, we don't live on a globe model, explains it by saying we have a gas pressure gradient. Well, that would be first requiring gas to have pressure and press on something like the balloon. Meanwhile, if the actual area of volume it has to contain is space, we would be dead. Gas pressure gradients is a delta of gas pressure. So it need to press on something, and outer space is not something to press on. It would be an area like the balloon that the gas would fill equally when it expands with entropy into space, leaving us dead. My conclusion, outer space is fake, debunked by you with entropy. Thank you for debunking outer space.
Oh, why you're thinking that I'm trying to debunk those space? Because I also don't believe in a space. You know that, right?
I don't care what you believe in. I'm telling you what you've debunked based on your notions of how gas go down, go boom, boom. It doesn't. It expands in all directions.
Yeah, I guess expands in all directions, and it's very easy to understand. And
yeah, but
I'm
your
not
claim
saying
is...
that the downward vector is a very kind of like, even if it is like what we say a kind of force, or there is some kind of there is some kind of like there is a magnetic like magnets always move to the north, right? So why? It is just because of magnetic field. So there may be some kind of field, some kind of gravitational field that is coming upside down, and every matter is attracting with that kind of field, right? And that field could be anything like a unknown field or a electrostatic field or some kind of other fields, right? I don't know about that, but that exists for real. That's why things goes down. And yeah, and the video you are not
Sorry,
playing, I think
just
you
gotta
have seen
control
that
my
video
G plus
already.
panel who cannot shut up.
That video was showed on Globebusters. I think Jaren showed that video, and
Sorry.
I put that video.
Let me know when you're done.
What?
Yeah, I'm waiting for get a word in edgeways, because you based this entire babble on there being a downward bias. You said when there's a downward bias. So I was going to interject and ask you, what downward bias would that be when detailing the gas that's pressing up on the balloon in your example? Tell me about the downward bias you're assuming for that gas particle, please.
Yeah, if you play that video, that's why I came with
I didn't ask for you to demand what I do when I produce my show. I asked you a simple question about something you inferred when you described something that Globebusters and their nonsense shite with ether and electrostatic forces and ether and background bollocks. All that crap that you spurted was based on the premise that there's a downward bias.
No.
Don't interrupt me. Excuse me, asshole. Don't interrupt me while I take apart the base premise that you started your nonsense waffle with about electrostatic forces that you may or may not know are there. I urge you, babble on based on the pretense that we've got a downward bias. Now, I'm redressing what you said based on the very first statement that we've got a downward bias that I've already debunked. And I'm going to ask you, based on the debunking I've already employed, about a particular set of gas particles that are pressing upwards on the balloon in your example. That, I preface, does not require you to tell me to put on a fucking video. It requires you to answer me about the downward bias you infer in the gas in the balloon that is going up. Go.
Yeah, but if you play that video, then it will.
No, are you deaf or just retarded? I don't need instructions on how to produce. I need you to answer about the downward bias that obviously isn't there in gas particles going up. But for your shite you got from Globusters to work, we must infer a downward bias. There isn't one in the gas going up, and you are ignoring my question. So, fourth time. Do you not know how this show works? When you entirely ignore my point that refutes yours and try and fundamentalist zealot mute me by chanting through me like you're doing now, it won't fly. I will repeat it until you shut your mouth and close your line and listen. And until you do that, every time people in the show see your light flashing while I'm talking, they know you're not listening. So I'll repeat it again, hopefully without the asshole religious zealot chanting through it. What, based on your prerequisite of a downward bias for Globusters garbage to make sense, what is the downward bias in the gas pressing up on the balloon in your example? Go.
Yeah, the biggest question here is that why you're not playing.
You're not asking me a new question. You're not going to tell me what the biggest question is. You're going to answer mine about the obviously non-existent downward bias in a gas particle that isn't going down. But you can't admit that because you really want Bob's bullshit to be true. You want Jaren, who you mentioned specifically with reference to Aether, and his bullshit to be true. It isn't, and when we get to the prerequisite downward bias you need, you can't answer a question about gas that goes up in your example, because obviously it's not going down to have a downward bias, it's going up. So I'll ask a sixth time. What downward bias, pray tell? Oh, Fundy, mute time when the question comes. Fundy, mute, asshole. Did you detect that I was going to be asking you a question about gas that's going up and how much downward bias it's got? Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Okay, I'm telling that. First of all, that Jaren didn't told that. And
I didn't ask about Jaren. I asked how much downward bias there is in a gas particle that is going up. I referenced the garbage you want to be true because you can't answer, so a seventh rendition. What downward bias in the gas that's going up?
Gas is going down in that way.
Sorry, I don't need to be told about the gas that's going down to make Bob and Jaren and Witsit shite make sense when my question specifically is about the gas that's going up, New Moon. Is it that your indoctrination at the cult and hands of Jaren and Witsit now requires you to fundamentalist zealot mute me while I talk about the cult of Aether and how you've been duped and now insist on talking about the gas that is going down when asked about a gas that's going up?
Yeah, but it's because of buoyancy force, right? You also believe that it is a result of downward vector and some kind of.
Right, the up in the gas is a result of the downward vector. So the gas that's going down, that's unbonded to the other gas, completely unbonded, is making it go up. So it's going up because of the downward bias. Are you insane?
Yeah, because other gases are like more dense. That's why they are putting pressure from below. And that's why the helium that is less dense, it's going up.
Thank you. Who's moaning down their mic with it open? Who's groaning? Who's doing that? Do you think that's necessary? Obviously, they're not going to own up to who did that. No, thank you. No, don't need any colour commentary while I've got an asshole who's quite happy to chant through me when it gets to the bits that devastate its downward bias and Aether. There's no downward bias in gas going up. Now, you asserting that unbonded gas particles moving in the opposite direction have influence on unbonded gas particles that are moving up. You are incorrect.
But the real problem is that you're not playing that video only, because I can explain after that. Also, it is short video, less than 40 seconds, right?
I'm not going to be told how to produce my show by playing a video. You want piss off and produce your own show. Play it on your crap show with no audience. Meanwhile, you can tell me about the downward bias in gas that's going up. And if you don't, and tell me, no, it's about it going down, the unbonded gas that's going down causes it to go up. That was your last rebuttal. Now it's play a video. Get lost. Go on Jaren's show. Jaren will play your video if it helps indoctrinate more idiots into believing that there's a downward bias in gas that goes up that you're yet to address 8 times after having it pointed out to you. There's no downward bias in gas that goes up, and the other unbonded particles aren't making it go up because they're going down. It's absurd. That's your last rebuttal. You've now had it 9 times. I'm not playing your video until you tell me what downward bias there is in gas that goes up. Go. 10 times.
Yeah, the gas is going up. That is because of buoyancy, because of other
I didn't
gases.
ask why.
around it, right?
I said what downward bias is there. I didn't say why is the gas going up. I said what downward bias is there in the gas, given that your prerequisite for your garbage cult-like crap that came from Globebusters, that cult-like crap requires us to assume that everything has got a downward bias. Okay, if I'm going to assume everything's got a downward bias, you can explain the downward bias in the gas that goes up. Ladies and gentlemen, there isn't one! If that isn't bloody obvious by now, I don't know what is. If it also isn't obvious how unbelievably indoctrinated Bob and his Globebusters cronies are, I don't know what else is. This is how indoctrinated you are with Aether. You'll deny the very premise of gas going up and insist that it's actually going down. Idiots!
No, the helium also goes down in a vacuum chamber.
Oh, so you're going to talk about that it also goes down when I'm asking you about the downward bias and it going up? The 11 attempts of me asking about are yet to answer. How much downward bias is there in gas that goes up? Yeah, none! You complete idiot! Are you really this brainwashed? I cannot believe this is my own side!
There is a little, downward bias in every...
In gas that goes up? You're telling me there's a little bit of down in stuff going up? Are you nuts?
Yeah, because...
Yeah! Oh my God, I'm dealing with brainwashed idiots. The whole of Flat Earth's been brainwashed. If it's going up, it isn't going down. There's no little bit of down. Are you nuts?
Yeah, it's just like your car. If there is 2 guys and they're both...
Shut up, stuttering idiot. You enrage me. The fact that you've got the audacity to tell me there's a little bit of down in something going up is outrageous. You think you've got the excuse to keep babbling and stuttering? Shut up. I've told you what to do. Piss off to people who indoctrinate flat earthers. Go to Jaren so he can brainwash others with your crap. We've undone it.
No, Jaren,
There's no down bias in stuff going up. Doesn't mean you assholes can chant through me while I undo your cult. Jaren and Bob and Witsit's cult is being undone here. Now, I've gone beyond giving a toss about and calling me a scammer. He's got a cult. You're a member. You're so indoctrinated with this crap that you're prepared to tell me there's a little bit of down in stuff going up. You're nuts. You've been indoctrinated and brainwashed.
Yeah, it's just like if you're playing a rope game.
Did you not understand the first time I told you to shut up and stop stuttering? Go to Jaren. Go to his show with your crap video so he can brainwash others like you. We are not like you. We don't want your cult of Aether.
Yeah, because the downward vector is over.
He can't stop. He's like a machine. He cannot stop. He's got to affirm his down.
It's overpowered by other things, and in a vacuum chamber,
it's overpowered by the stuff going down. So the stuff going up is actually now overpowered. It's not going down. Are you insane? My God, they've been so successful in their cult. Your cult of Aether has turned people into complete idiots.
And you're saying that Jaren called you a scammer. No, Jaren never called. Even you also called him a
And
scammer.
he's also bought Jaren's lie that he never called me a scammer. I've got recordings of him saying it to me. Are you nuts? So when Jaren has literally called me a scammer to my face, you're prepared to go down on his tripling down that he hasn't called me a scammer? Wow! Your cult leader, Jaren, is so effective in his brainwashing that after calling me a scammer to my face, you believe that he hasn't done that because he said he hasn't? Wow, he's got such a stranglehold on his cult, hasn't he? Wow.
You also did the same, bro. And it doesn't like a very big deal if you are calling her.
Are you out of your
right,
mind
but
or
This
what?
guy's
you both
nuts.
were
He's
doing a
absolutely
right?
brainwashed, Chocolate.
Are you actually out of your mind?
No,
Are you okay?
because Nathan Oakley is saying because he called him a scammer, so he don't want to like every global.
Yeah, that's not even a sentence, dickwad. That's not even a coherent sentence. So when you can string together a coherent sentence and you've got the brainwashing of Jeranism and Globebusters and Witsit gets it out of your bloodstream and you can appreciate that something going up isn't a little bit down, when you can appreciate that, you'll be welcome back. Till then, you're absolutely infuriating because you're a brainwash moron at this point. You're a cult of Ether brainwash moron. Go away, brainwash moron of the cult of Ether. I don't want you here. You're sending me nuts.
You see the damage that
Yeah,
show
no.
caused?
I think today Jaren is going to discuss with FTFE.
I couldn't give a shit what Jaren's doing with his cult. This isn't a platform to advertise the cult. Go back to it with your video.
No. He will show that thing.
I don't care what he'll show. Is this guy not getting it? I don't want this to become some platform advertising Jaren and his cult of Ether. I don't want it. Just go away.
Kick him out.
Let me in. I don't want to be over on this side.
He said
Please
helium
go.
goes down. Hang on. He said helium goes down in the vacuum chamber.
No,
He's
it doesn't.
I know. He just said that. So he must have popped that balloon.
Yes.
It goes in all directions. No, it would go in all directions in the available space, you dummy.
It's going all directions in the balloon.
I think
Yeah,
Eli
new
wants to
balloon.
get in, somebody.
Yeah, to conclude the actual argument, the balloon is a container and the gas expands into the balloon in all directions. There's no downward bias. If you pop the balloon, the gas would fill the vacuum chamber equally in all directions because there's no downward bias. When he asserts that it's got a downward bias, guys, what's the downward bias in the stuff going up? And he perpetually, repeatedly tells me about it going down. It is utterly infuriating. Also, on a slightly calmer note, quite admirable. I mean, if Bob was still alive, fist bump. Wow, Bob, I'm impressed with how well you've indoctrinated your cult members of Ether. I mean, they're so obedient that you can literally call someone a scammer to their face and then tell your audience that you haven't done that and they'll believe you because they're so indoctrinated. It's incredible. What a job. What a number.
Well, there's no such
Also,
thing as
just to
up,
be clear-
really. It's just less down.
Yeah, and just to be clear, he's making it sound like the video that there's a flattened balloon in it. It's the same video as the other one. It's just the balloon is still expanded equally in all directions. It's just going down to the bottom of the vacuum chamber because the change in the density of the medium makes the material that the balloon is out of go down. This isn't really that hard to understand.
Yeah, exactly. The helium that's contained in the balloon is contained so it can't fill the chamber while it's in the balloon. And because the balloon is more dense than the no medium of the vacuum, the whole lot goes down until the pressure goes low enough for the balloon to burst, and then the helium fills the chamber. Is this the level of stupid that they have over there?
Why did you say
Yes.
that, Nathan?
Why did I say what, One Deck?
Why didn't you just say that?
I did. About 13 times.
So,
You see the damage they done?
is anybody talking?
I can't believe that half of Flat Earth is basically in a cult.
Yeah, there was a lot of damage Globebusters has done.
Right, well, a lot of people
it's a sad day.
A lot of people turn out to actually need a replacement for the globe they lost. Right? They know it's fake, but that doesn't mean that they don't need something to hold on to for themselves, because they're used to being dependent. They grew up being dependent on a something, which was the globe.
Mic check.
I hear you.
You know what's amazing here? What's amazing here is that both sides know how the globe lie was hoisted on mankind. And now something a lot more simpler to prove is a lie. That side, Globebusters, Bob, Witsit, Jaron, vacuum chamber, downward bias, we just went through. They believe all that. It's like people can't reason and logic for themselves anymore. No discernment. My goodness.
So, you know, it's like when
sorry, mate.
It's like when we were talking about science versus pseudoscience and how the people using gravity to dupe people into yada yada yada. It's almost like people silently disagreed. I mean, because how could you believe in the same phenomena? Well, it's not a phenomena. I'm sorry about that. Something going down and the air is only going up because everything else is going down. Like, is that where, like, y'all heard us take that apart like a million times? Where's your mind at?
They're pushing the
but
ether. It all
he
goes
said
back
it.
to ether.
He said it himself, though, without realizing it, that the air that's going up is going up because it's less dense. Like, he did say that in the middle of his talking about a downward bias that's not affecting the air that's going up. Oh, I'm sorry. There's no such thing as up. It's just less down. Yeah.
I'm just going to say though,
came
it's like,
on,
I think everything that's going on at the moment with everybody, it's like, I think it's like a clearing out of the dead wood. All this, these Witsits and Jerrons and everything else. We're clearing the dead wood out now. This is what it's all about. Just going to be us in the end.
That's how you prevent the fires, man. That's how you prevent the fires. Yeah.
Brian comes on with a concise summary of the whole thing. We've seen videos of the helium balloon with extra, when they take the pressure out of the vacuum chamber, it pops. Where does the gas go? It fills the chamber. We've all seen that. They've seen that. And look at this guy fighting what he's seen.
Totally ignoring everything Nathan said. Just wants to get to that video. They want their ether.
Well, that's my point.
But where is the video of the gas?
Hang on, Chuck. They could see it all happening, but because ether must live, they got to deny what they saw.
That's correct.
Seems like you think this guy was smart enough to get us to segue away from the video on celestial navigation today? Because it's a shame we're not going to be able to cover it.
You can't divine the guy's motivation. He just wants his ether to be true. He's a cult member. He's heard the cult being attacked. Now he wants to defend the cult.
Nathan, you got me very nervous, Nathan.
Pardon?
I thought you were gonna have a heart attack.
Because it's infuriating.
He was already wild.
Even if
tonight,
we can't,
right? As
even
it
if we
is,
can't prove ether, can't disprove it. Right? So you can't disprove something in science.
Oh wow.
That's why dark matter and dark energy exist.
Oh, he's still alive. Look at this. He's still alive.
Okay. Yes, you can disprove things in science. You can only prove your alternative and disprove your null, or prove your null and disprove. There's that asshole interruption. There's that asshole interruption. So I'm disagreeing with you and giving an example of how you're wrong, and you're interrupting the conclusion of it because you're an ether-believing cult member asshole. So let's try that again, asshole. Do you want to say I'm an asshole and I keep interrupting things that disagree with my ether belief? Do you want to say that before we move on with a reasonable discussion where an asshole doesn't interrupt the conclusion that makes him wrong? Your statement, don't need any affirmation from me, I'll do it without, was that you can't disprove things with science. You can only prove your alternative and simultaneously disprove your null, or prove your null simultaneously disproving your alternative. Those are the only outcomes from science. So while you say, no, you can't disprove things, that's all you get from the end result. One thing disproven, A causing B. and one thing proven, A not causing B. One can only be true, and one will be disproven upon experimentation, making you, New Moon, scientifically illiterate and stupid and wrong. So, do you understand, given I've just given you a breakdown of how the empirical method of hypothesis construction can only facilitate one wrong and one right outcome, proving one thing, alternative hypothesis, disproving the other, null hypothesis, that would make you wrong when you say science can't disprove? Do you understand how you were wrong, New Moon?
Yeah, I told you like these kind of things are still to be proven or disproven, but I don't think so that someone can do that. But still,
I've
like
just explained how you do that with a validation of a hypothesis that only has an outcome where you prove one thing and disprove the other. I just explained it to you. Can you paraphrase back what I explained to you during silence while you were presumably listening, or was what I explained to you with the only outcome? Is that asshole again? Is that that's asshole, right? Asshole. That's asshole. Asshole, right? Asshole confirmed that you still can't prove things with science after an explanation of exactly how you prove things. Asshole starts interrupting. So, asshole, can you paraphrase back how I explicitly detailed how the outcome of experimentation, that's hypothesis actualization, can only result in something being disproven and something being proven? That's the only outcome in every single experiment ever. Do you understand? Don't just reaffirm your position that I've just overcome. Do you understand? Do you understand? Because if you say yes, I'm going to get you to paraphrase it back. If you say no, I'm going to repeat it differently.
No, but you repeated.
So no, you don't understand how science proves and disproves things. I don't need a waffle after your no. So just to affirm, you don't understand how science proves and disproves. You don't understand that.
With scientific method, are you talking about that?
Do you not understand a simple closed yes or no question? I have just explained hypothesis actualization to you. Do you understand what I explained? Yes or no?
Yeah, I understood that. Yes, yes.
Excellent. Please paraphrase back what I explained to be hypothesis actualization to my audience. Go ahead.
Yeah, when we like make a hypothesis, then at that time we think that we are going to prove something or disprove something, and if we prove this thing, then we are disproving the things that are not proven, right? So it is making that kind of right. Like if we have two hypotheses and if we proved one according to you, then we disproved other, right? That is, I think, the simpler way to tell. But yeah, what you talked it about Jaren with Jaren in.
Sorry, I don't want to move on to Jaren. I want you to understand that when you said it can't disprove things, but you've just summarised my point about how it disproves things, that you now understand how bloody wrong you were. Let's not talk about your cult leader. Let's talk about you, the subservient cult cuck, and how he was wrong about what Jaren told him when Jaren said science doesn't prove, and you parroted that incorrect shit here and have now paraphrased back exactly how it disproves things. So you understand how wrong you were, New Moon. That's what I need from you. No, don't be a weasel.
No. Yeah, it's not a call. No.
I'm not asking you to affirm how much of a cult Jaren's group and Globebuster's group and Witsit's group is. I asked you to affirm how wrong you now understand to be, based on your statement that science doesn't disprove things, and then paraphrasing back exactly how it disproves things, based on it can only have one or other outcome, one of which is disproving something. You affirmed, paraphrased it back accurately. Now you just need to concede that you were wrong when you said the polar opposite of that, based on the shite you got from Jaren, who's an idiot. So don't focus on Jaren, focus on how you, the cult subservient cuck, were wrong when you said science doesn't disprove. Don't be an asshole and chant through the conclusion about what you now need to do. That would be affirm how wrong you were with your original statement I've challenged. and you paraphrase back how wrong you were, so you just need to affirm, yeah, I was wrong about that when I said science can't
No, because
disprove.
the big problem with your
I don't want
argument.
to hear the problem. I want to hear the understanding that you were wrong when you said science doesn't disprove, given that you've just explained, by paraphrasing back what I corrected you with, how it disproves. You need to affirm how wrong you were. Go.
No, you will also longer.
No. You either affirm how wrong you were, because it's blatantly obvious to everybody watching, given that you've paraphrased back exactly how it disproves things. If you will not and refuse to admit that you were wrong, then you are a weasel. And we'll have a good laugh at you, being a weasel, not being able to admit when you're wrong, having no humility, chanting through the end so you don't have to exercise that humility you don't have. We'll just call you a weasel if you can't affirm that when you said it doesn't disprove things and can't, given that you've explained to us with your own tongue how it does, that you'd admit you were wrong, unless you're a total weasel. We'll see.
Nathan, you have a good knowledge. I'm not saying that you don't know. You have a good.
Yeah, I don't need you to tell me whether or not good knowledge. I need you to affirm that your knowledge was crap and it was based on Jaren's garbage that you paraphrased here and then got corrected on and then repeated back how you were corrected. Now you just to affirm how wrong you were. That's all you need to do. You were wrong, weren't you?
No, like it's not.
No,
like...
yes, you were definitely wrong. Science disproves and proves. That's all it can do. You paraphrase back how it does it. Now you need to affirm that you're wrong. Not no, absolutely yes, you were wrong with that statement that science can't prove things. You were wrong. You need to affirm that. We're not moving on until you do, you complete weasel.
No, why? But why when we?
No, don't ask me something called but why you way around it, because it's not going to work. It's yes, you were wrong. That's what you will be affirming, and nothing else will happen until you do.
But why when we Google...
Don't ask me a question. Not but why you way around it. I'm not going to tolerate a but why. Yeah, that little trick that Jaren also used. But why? Yeah, everyone took the piss out of him in the comments over it. That won't work here either. You were wrong. You need to affirm. Science can absolutely disprove and prove something. That's all it does.
I think you and Jaren should call it...
I don't think you need to tell me what I need to be doing, you utter weasel. You need to show an ounce of humility and admit that you were wrong when you said science can't disprove things. You were wrong. You need to admit that now.
Yeah, but you're also...
Yeah, but. Not yeah, but, because that's incredibly weaselly. Just yes, I understand, by way of my own affirmation, repeating what you corrected me with, how wrong I was. That's what you need to say.
No.
No. Well, then you're not welcome. If you can't have an ounce of humility, then you're not welcome, because everybody here has humility. If you haven't, then you're not welcome.
No, the reason...
No. Well, then get lost. Someone kick him out. You can come back tomorrow when you decide to grow a pair of balls and admit when you're wrong.
Okay, last thing.
Get lost until you can grow a pair of bollocks and admit when you are wrong. Until then, get lost. You're not amongst friends. We all have humility here and commit when we're wrong. You, because you've got a cult leader who's told you science can't disprove things and science can't prove things, want to chant constantly with but yeah, but no, but yeah, but no. Vicky Pollard, get lost. Come back when you've grown a pair of set.
If it was a cult, why he said that you should earn more, right? Jaren said that he
don't care what Jaren said. I spoke to him. I can speak to people like Jaren. I did. Have you spoken to Jaren?
You can call...
No, you haven't, you stupid idiot. What you've done is paraphrased your cult leader and then done very badly, and then admitted how you were wrong, but not actually confessed to being wrong, and had the balls to man up and admit to it. Admit you were wrong. Science can disprove things. That's all it does. Coward.
That's why you're backing up.
Don't tell me what I'm doing. That's why I'm doing something. No, that's why you're a coward. That's why all your cult, fundy, zealot, cult, ether, muppets, that's what they are all to. You represent them here. You're just yet another cult cuck of Jaren and Bob and Witsit. It's absolutely pathetic. You've got no balls, no humility, no decent arguments, no proof of ether. You've got a downward bias that you can't demonstrate. You can't answer questions about gases going up. You can paraphrase entropy and out of debunked space and then fundamentally ignore it for your ether faith. It's pathetic.
Bro, science proved that the Earth is a globe in 100 kind of ways, right? And why you're on...
No, it did not. Science only establishes the elucidation of cause and effect relationships. This is the kind of poison we're stamping out when we stop people like Jaren and Dave saying that kind of shit that you're now repeating. Science has absolutely not proven a cause and effect relationship for a globe. The globe's not a cause and effect relationship, demonstrating admirably that you, a cult member of Jaren and Bob and Witsit, don't understand what science is in the same way they don't. If you think they're proving the globe a concrete noun with science, it demonstrates your lack of understanding of what science actually is. Clearly.
What? If you just Google, science itself says that science doesn't prove anything, and there are
I've
mainstream
told you.
articles about that.
Okay.
Too many. And
Okay.
Jaren showed that
And that's
in his
great.
video, right?
Wonderful. You
Just
take that
Google.
just Google it search methodology to Jaren. It'll be entirely welcome
No,
because
mainstream
that is the
articles.
standard there. That standard's good enough for Jaren. So take that really top quality standard to Jaren. He'll welcome it with open arms. What's that? You can prove the globe with a Google search? Come on over. That's about the standard we hold. So off you go to Jaren with your wiki parrot and your Google search, because he'll welcome that shit with open arms.
There was all kind of articles in the mainstream science websites that science doesn't prove things at the deep down level, right? And you can just Google and you will get all the results with the same.
Yes,
They
I
all
had
are
this
saying that
conversation with Jaren himself. Shocking, isn't it? Yes, I've had this conversation with Jaren.
Yeah,
Yes, and he's an idiot and doesn't seem to understand that charlatans who use the word of science to claim they've got proof when they haven't will simultaneously decry the word of science to cover their tracks. But you see, Jaren's too stupid to see past that. So he thinks when they say on their websites, the charlatans that use that crap to claim they've got proof when they hadn't, when they say science doesn't prove, he'll believe them on that score, but disbelieve them when they say science proves a globe, a concrete noun. Something that we understand doesn't fall under the purview of science. But people who do say science proves the globe also say science doesn't prove anything. Yet we know that, but we're not at the very dull end of the sword that you are and Jaren are at, with your lack of understanding of what science does. Science doesn't prove concrete nouns, and when people try to prove concrete nouns with it, like an angular size or a globe, then we'll point out that that's not a cause and effect relationship that's been through the scientific method, because that's what science actually is. You, on the other hand, will wiki search your way to science doesn't prove anything. Look, it said on Google. Clown, take that shit standard to Jaren. That's his standard, not ours.
Okay, so we should leave that topic. Yeah, you can go on with other.
Oh, thank you,
stuff.
host of Flat Earth Debate New Moon. Like I give two shits what you think we'll be moving on to.
You know what's so interesting, New Moon, is that you have to buy into. Hang on, you have to buy into science doesn't prove anything to push the ether, and you're being used like a little puppet by Jared, and you're not thinking for yourself. Oh, go to Google, search, the science prove things. That's the standard Jaren is using so that he could keep his ether alive that he associates and disassociates with whenever it's convenient.
No, Jaren never propagates ether.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Why are you telling us what Jaren does? Are you his representative?
No, because
Then don't mention his name again. Me, I'll reference the conversation I had with Jaren personally. That's what I will do, because I've had a personal conversation with him and have a personal relationship with him. You, on the other hand, are some shithead cult follower. You've got no reason to tell me what Jaren thinks or says or does. I don't give a shit what you say about Jaren. Me, on the other hand, I've spoken to him.
Are you
so
like
why
his
you was
greasy
not
lawyer or
speaking to
something?
him
Yeah, he
about
thinks
the
he's his
tangent
representative.
lines?
He's not.
Like you can do celestial navigation on globe also. Why you was not talking about that? You run away in the middle of the conversation because he was trying to bring up that using a tangent line, you can do celestial navigation on the globe, and you run away.
You see how
Okay,
much
that's it. No, everyone.
see how much
Thank
they
you for the colour
infiltrated?
commentary. You want to explain to us, given that you are a quote-unquote flat earther, how much credence you have given to Jaren's claim that you, a flat earther, can do celestial navigation on a globe? I'd like you to now explain how you can. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do geometry myself, not because of Jaren. And you can use a tangent line, and with that tangent line angle, like on a flat Earth, what we do, we assume that the Earth is flat with a tangent line, and you can assume on a globe that a tangent line. You can assume a tangent line, right? According to the GP is 90, and then the tangent line, right? It's perfect horizontal, so it will work the same way. And the celestial
Stop 1 second,
navigation
please.
on the
Stop 1
globe
second.
is also
Thank you.
wrapped.
Thank you. One step at a time. Okay, I understand. I'll paraphrase back what you have said. You take a tangent from a globe. I got that bit. Then you said that you have 90 degrees GP at the tangent on a globe. Correct? That's what we've got so far. Just need a yes. Just checking I've understood so far.
Carry on.
Yes, yes. That's what we got so far. Really? What does GP stand for?
GP is like directly below point of the star or whatever we are.
What does it stand for? Was my
Right.
question.
GP, it's the I think globe point that is directly below that thing we are right.
He said
Like
I
if
don't
there is
need help.
What a
I
jerk.
heard what he said. But you
it's
believe
90
it's the...
degree angle like GP.
Sorry, you don't know what the GP stands for then, correct?
It's just the zenith point, right?
A GINA point?
What we say.
Let's try again. No, it's not a globe point. It's not a GINA point. I don't know what a GINA point is, but do you want to try again?
Yeah, my English is not that good, so that's why I'm struggling, but I know what I'm saying.
I'm asking what GP stands for.
The full form, I don't know, but I know how.
You don't know?
what is
Can you
that,
shut
like-
up then? So according to you, we've got a GP that
I
you don't know.
forgot.
So you think the guy who doesn't know needs to keep telling us about celestial navigation that you've charged us with not understanding based on what Jaren's told you with a tangent to a globe that he got from McToon? Okay, so I ask you, what's a GP? You give us two different answers that were guesses that were completely wrong, and everybody in the chat was laughing their tits off at you. I'll just point that out. They all thought you were incredibly stupid with your GINA position. No, it's not a language barrier.
Yeah, GINA
You
position.
asshole. Shut up, asshole. I won't tell you again. Do not interrupt me, asshole. I'm telling you about your GINA position that you don't understand because Jaren told you it worked on a tangent. Now I'll correct your dumbass based on your incorrect knowledge you got from Jaren, who doesn't have the slightest idea how this stuff works. He's telling you it works on a globe. That's what he's telling you. Because you're a cult member, when Jaren, your cult leader, tells you that it works on a globe, you nod. It's absolutely amazing, the number they've done on you. It's incredible. But you are prepared to nod and tell me, a flat earther, as a flat earther, how this works on a tangent on a globe. Because the GP meets the tangent, according to you. Is that right? GP, New Moon, stands for ground position. Now I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is the 90 degree on a tangent from a globe the ground of the globe at 90 degrees?
Yeah, watch. So what's the problem? It's just
Did you
mathematics.
hear my question? What do you mean, what's the problem? I'm asking you a question. If you don't understand the question, I can... Please mute whoever's come off mute in G+. I can repeat the question if you don't understand it. Do you not understand my question?
Repeat again in
No problem.
10 seconds.
No problem. You described a tangent from a globe. That's a globe dangling beneath a plane that's called a tangent. And on that tangent, you said there was 90 on the tangent. Now, the tangent is a straight line, horizontal in nature, with a sphere dangling below a point of that tangent, 1 point. Now, I'm asking, that's where you're measuring from, where that tangent point is, with the plane extending out that you said makes this all cushy. Now I'm asking if the ground position meeting the tangent at 90 is on the globe ground. That'll be on the tangent out in space, not on the ground. Is that a ground position on the globe, New Moon?
No.
No! So it seems Jaren has absolutely shafted you with stupid wrong information, where he didn't tell you that GP meeting a tangent isn't on the globe ground. So this fails. It seems that Toon misled Jaren, and Jaren misled you, his little cult cuck, into thinking this works on a tangent when the 90-degree GP, that you didn't know what it meant, isn't on the ground anymore. at 90 degrees.
No.
No, it isn't. That's right. It fails on its arse, new moon. That's right. No.
No, tangent is based on our position, right? Not
The tangent hasn't got a ground position meeting it, you dumb fuck.
tangent is based.
Hasn't got a ground position. That's right. Where it meets 90 isn't the ground. You stupid clown.
No, it doesn't meet with GP.
No, it doesn't meet the ground position. That's right. So it's not a GP on the tangent then, is it?
Yeah,
No, not yeah. You think it is the ground. So the tangent out in space, that's a ground position, is it? Out in space.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah. You think a point out in space is on the ground when it's out in space on a tangent to a globe that we don't stand on and you shouldn't be fighting for. But your cult members got you here on Flat Earth Debate fighting for the globe and the tangent in space that is definitely not on the ground with 90 to it. You think it is on the globe ground out in space at 90.
Bro, if that was real, how the all
Why are you asking me something? Is it on the ground at 90 degrees on the tangent? Yes or no?
Yeah, yes, but
Yes. So out in space on a tangent, it is on the ground. No, it isn't. Don't you know how to conceptualize this? Are you thick? Now, if it's out on a tangent from your position, tangent to your position, the only point on the ground is your position at the tangent. Every other position is not on the ground. Do you not understand this stuff? Did Jaron not go through it clearly enough with you? There's no other position other than yours.
I understand that.
There's no other position that's yours as asshole Fundy muting starts because I'm exposing the Aether cult. So you need to chant through me, don't you? Need to chant through me, right? Asshole.
Bro,
Asshole.
why didn't you debate it?
Asshole. That means stop chanting through me. It's not an invitation to continue doing it. Asshole. Stop chanting through me. No, the tangent point is where you stand, and you're drawing a plane from that point. The only point on the ground for that tangent plane is where you're standing. Do you understand that? That the only point on the ground is the tangent point at the top of the globe where you're making this measurement from.
Yeah.
You do understand that's the only point on the ground on the globe.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So the other point with 90 to it, out in space on the tangent, the ground position, we're going to call it, is that on the ground, given that the only point on the ground is where you're measuring this from and it's not underneath the star 90 degrees to it out in space? Is that on the ground, New Moon?
Like if we are just beneath that star that we are measuring, then it will.
No, we're not. We're not beneath a star. We're measuring, you complete clown. No, we're measuring a star that we're not under. Why do you need to take this to a scenario where you can't just admit that no, out on the tangent, Jaron told you makes this work on a sphere, so you, the flat earther, at Jaron's behest and advice, come here to argue how the sphere Earth does work. We've got 90 degrees to a tangent. Is it the ground position on the ground of the globe you're fighting for? Yes or no?
Yeah.
No, it isn't. No. The only position on the ground is the tangent you conceded to earlier. If the only position is where you're measuring from, the position you're measuring to isn't on the ground. It can't be. There's only one point on the ground at that tangent point you're standing. So do you not understand that every other point except where you're standing isn't on the ground? Are you too stupid to understand that this ground position that Jaron told you worked on a sphere because you can have a tangent isn't on the ground? You yet to concede that. So it's not on the ground out in space on that tangent. The ground position's not on the ground anymore. Do you understand that now?
Yeah, I don't understand that, but
Oh, I'll explain it again if you're too stupid to understand. I mean, obviously you're an Aether cult member, so you're obviously going to be stupid and need it explaining 5 times. We're drawing a tangent from a single point that touches the globe ground at that single point. From that point outwards, you've suggested, because Jaron told you in your Aether cult, how to believe in a globe. He said, while I get asshole interruptions, your cult leader, Jaron, told you how to believe in a globe and how to argue for a globe and how you're here doing it. Single point where you're standing, that's the only point that touches the globe on the ground where you're measuring from. Every point, without exception, that is not that point, won't be on the ground. Now, you're drawing a tangent from that point out into... Asshole. You're drawing a tangent out from that point, asshole. Asshole, asshole. Go on, asshole. What, do you need to interrupt me as I draw a tangent out into space that's not on the ground for you to understand?
I don't have that diagram that
Don't need a
people
diagram. You need
shows,
to listen.
right?
Don't need one. I haven't used any diagrams. None. Listen. You explained conceptually to me how you got a tangent to a sphere. Well, one point touches the sphere where the tangent extends from, where you are standing in your argument that Jaren, your cult leader of Aether, has given you to argue here for a globe as a flat earther. It's a freaking outrage. Nevertheless, you're here with your cult leader's request to fight for a globe and how it works with a tangent that moves from one point on the ground out into space. And that point out in space has got a 90 meeting it. Do you understand that, New Moon? It's your argument you gave to me at Jaren's behest, by the way. I'm just paraphrasing back what you told me.
No, it's a geometry that works for the both.
Now, don't tell me it's a geometry that works. Tell me you understand that the 90's meeting the tangent out in space.
It's a
frickin' weasels. Cult, Jaren's cult. They're all weasels, just like globe believers. What turned you into? Turned you into an anti-flat earther, just like the anti-globe flat earthers. They're all the same. You're the same. You're a cult leader. You're cult-led.
Then we will.
Don't tell me about the model. Tell me about the 90 degree to the tangent Jaren told you works. Does it have the ground position out in space? Yes, it does. Why is it now the 8th attempt for you to concede that the ground position out in space on the tangent isn't a ground position? Why can't you concede that? You need to fight for this globe working for Jaren.
Bro, if you talk with Jaren, then he will.
I have! Stupid clown. I have. I know his argument. I also told him that the ground position debunked this argument. I made it explicitly clear to him in written text message for him to peruse at his leisure. I explained this exact argument to him. You know what he did? He turned around and called me a scammer. It's because he's an asshole with a cult that's being threatened. So instead of listening to how the tangent's not a ground position, as I explained to Jaren, explicitly to him, personally, yeah, I have. Now I'm explaining it to you, shit for brains. The tangent you drew that Jaren told you would be the reason you'd win with a globe with it working with celestial navigation has a GP out in space. So it's not a ground position, you stupid idiot. Why is it 9 attempts for you to concede something obvious? As a flat earther, you should be fighting for this, not against it at Jaren's behest.
If someone else can address their point of view here, then I can understand.
Absolutely not. You will concede that Jaren's shit that this works on a sphere is wrong because you don't have a ground position in space on a tangent. It's not a ground position anymore. When you concede that you came here to fight for Jaren's corner, then we'll move on. Till you do, you either concede or we don't move on.
But the sky is also round according to globe model, right?
So move on to a different argument. No. Tangent's not in space like Jaren told you to fight for. You need to concede that, you total weasel cult member.
No, it's like a GPS.
Yes, it does not work on a globe because there is no 90 degree to a tangent in space. If there was, it wouldn't be a ground position. You need to understand and affirm this, not weasel your way around with a different subject.
Okay, so sky is round or flat according to...
That's not the question. The question is the tangent. You came here to fight for Jaren to say that it does work. It does not. Jaren's wrong. Because the degree at 90 isn't on the ground. It's not a ground position on a tangent in space.
Did you see...
Don't ask me something, you stuttering bitch. You need to concern yourself with how wrong you were and how wrong Jaren was when he told you it worked. It doesn't.
No. If you think that you can play that video of Jaren, right, and we can explain it further.
Don't need a video. I spoke to him personally, Dick. I've told you.
But you don't play videos, right? That's the problem.
I don't need to. When we're talking about Jaren, I've spoken to him personally. This segue's not going to work. Jaren was wrong. He said it works on a globe with a tangent. That's what Toon told him, and Jaren believed him because he's idiotic. Meanwhile, we understand that a GP has to be on the ground, and that GP is on a tangent in space, making Jaren wrong. Also making him naive, because he believed Toon. over us, who he condemned as being scammers. Toon, on the other hand, he believed. Well, that was bad because Toon was wrong. Because the GP isn't in space on a tangent as you've fought for. Flat Earther, you say? Why the hell are you here fighting for a globe then?
No, he was fighting for flat Earth, and on the discussion.
How many times do I have to tell you, you don't need to speak for Jaren? You're not his fucking representative here. Is that not clear? You don't represent Jaren. Me, on the other hand, I've spoken to him personally, and I can reflect on what I spoke to him about. You can't. So don't. Tell me about how wrong you were about the tangent in space. You came to fight as a flat earther for the globe at Jaren's behest, as a cult follower of the Aether.
No, I have talked with Slit about, like, I have heard with Slit, not talked about him, like, not talked with him. I heard, and he was, he have a different kind of explanation.
Sorry, you think I give a shit about your conversations with your cult leaders? I need you to admit that Jaren was wrong when he told you it worked on a sphere. It doesn't. Why aren't you admitting that?
No, not. I didn't do conversations with them, but I have listened.
I don't care about your conversations with your cult leader you're absolutely obsessed with. Your chat with Witsit doesn't interest me. What does is you telling me it works on a sphere when the GP's out in space on a tangent. That's all I'm interested in. You hearing this, Jaren? Your audience has come here with the shit arguments that you put to them about how it does work on a sphere. Unsubscribe immediately from Jaren. He is not a flat earther. He sent people here, New Moon, to argue on his behalf as his representative that he's not. New Moon does not represent Jaren. He's just one of his cult cronies. And as a cult crony, he's followed Jaren's advice and told me celestial navigation works on a tangent with a GP out in space. No, it doesn't. Jaren's wrong. Do you hear that, Jaren?
No.
Your shitty argument failed on its arse when this guy put it to us too.
No. Jaren doesn't know me, even he don't know.
So don't talk about him. Don't mention his name again. I will mention him and you as a cult follower of him. You've got no actual relationship with Jaren. You're just a cult crony repeating his garbage that we took apart because of the GP out in space you're still yet to concede. Because you're so indoctrinated with your cult following of Jaren that you refuse to admit where he is wrong. Because heaven forbid your cult leader of Aether's wrong about tangents that work on a globe. Oh, what's that? This man's supposed to be a flat earther? Ask yourself why you subscribe to him. He's sending people here to argue how a globe works.
You're like a bad lawyer. You're like a lawyer that's trying to defend the case and has not spoken to his client. Nathan has spoken to your client. You haven't. What do you like? What's the point? Like, what are you doing? That's my only question to you.
Yeah, like, I think you guys should do another discussion.
Nobody asked you what we should do. You are not producing this show, you arrogant prick.
But why you run away in middle? Because he was trying to put that conversation ahead with tangent lines.
Does it have a GP meeting it?
No, but
So it fails. So it fails. Because it's supposed to be the ground position and it doesn't have one. So it does not work where Jaren told you it did.
But in geometry it will work, right?
Because it's in geometry a ground position out in space that's not on the ground. No, it fails in geometry too. That's why they transpose it to the centre of Earth, at the equatorial plane. You understand that they transpose the angle you're detailing it out in space on the tangent to the equatorial plane on a globe. Of course you don't. Your cult leader Jaren didn't fully explain this to you. That's why he said it works on a globe, and you're now fighting for it working on a tangent out in space? No, my friend. You need to transpose it inside the globe. Did you not know that? That's how you fight for a globe? Interesting that the flat earther Jaren is telling you how to fight very poorly for how things don't work on a globe, as he told you incorrectly. And we're correcting you on how it won't work on a globe, as you are incorrect about at Jaren's behest. And educating you on how the actual globers would argue this inside a globe. Did you appreciate this works in a globe for them? Clearly not. Yet your stony silence is all I need to know that your cult leader of Aether, Jaren, didn't educate you well on celestial navigation. You didn't even know what GP standed for. Yet you're here telling us how wrong we are because Jaren said we were wrong. Well, that was very, very poorly taken advice, wasn't it? Oh, you believed him? Oh, well, that was very stupid. Don't believe what Jaren says. It'll lead you to being absolutely taken to pieces here. When you say that a GP, that you don't know what it means, is actually on the ground out in space. That's not on the ground, you utter clown. That's where Jaren was wrong. And he's been told, making him complicit. Maybe he's behind the scenes having a damn good laugh at you. Because he knows this is wrong. I've already told him what I told you. But he didn't tell you that, did he? He let you go into the wilderness, parrot his garbage about it working out in space at a GP that doesn't exist, and get humiliated. But he knew it weren't a GP because I told him. Yeah, you know, I know I told him because I know when I told him. And he verbatim parroted back aspects of the things I told him, meaning he had read every word of it. But he was complicit in your humiliation, your cult leader. He was quite content to just tell you half a story about it working on a tangent out in space, on the ground out in space. Yeah, he's humiliated you, your cult leader. And he sent you here to fight for a globe. Do you not feel embarrassed? You're here fighting with a flat earther for a globe at Jaren's behest. Is that not embarrassing to you? Speaks volumes to the audience, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, he left.
Yeah, shocking. Let's do some super chat shout-outs. Shout out to Stephen Davis. Not sure if you want to see. I just wanted to support my comments made on Tuesday about Jaren. Have audio/video to confirm what I said he said. Well, for £5, you got it read out. I don't understand what it means. Maybe someone will clarify after the fact, Stephen, but thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support, Stephen Davis. Also, Duncan McLeod, who says, can we all please laugh at him for thinking there is a ground in space? Smiley laughy face. Thank you very much, Duncan. Really appreciate the support. Himsake, also thank you for the super chat. Honest question. Is the question of why up is up/down is down a philosophical question akin to asking now is now, and if the past is real? No, it's not really a philosophical question. It's a subjective question, unless you're talking about something that's got an actual direction to it, which would be the North Star. That's about it, unless you can name another one. But everything else is relative. You know, it's relative to you and your movement, what's down versus what is up. But your actual confirmable true direction, North Star, you've got something that's actual and consistent. But nothing beyond that, as far as I know. Is anybody going to correct me on that? Is there any other non-subjective directions beyond the North Star? Everyone staying on mute? No, I'm going to take it as read that that's the case.
All I know is that there's no up. There's just less down.
You jokey, you. Thank you very much for the super chat, Himsake. Really, really good. I don't know how to answer your question. Is it a philosophical question? I mean, I could reduce everything to a philosophical question if I'm so inclined. But there we go. Thank you for the super chat. Shout out to Godzilla37. He says, I'm here to join the cult. Where do I leave my brain? Thank you, Gord. Also, Phoenix Rising 86. Don't do drugs, kids, or you'll end up believing hot gases goes to cold, used in a parlor trick to prove downward bias. Right on. Thank you very much indeed, Phoenix Rising 86, for the super chat. Oh, Anthony's joined. I've got to give him an apology. Okay. Shout out to Daniel Samin. I can never say his name. Samamingo. Probably wrong. You gifted out 5 memberships. Thank you very much indeed. And also John Birch, who joined right at the beginning of the show as a member himself. Thank you very much to all of you. Really appreciate all of the support. First and foremost, I'm really sorry, Anthony. I jumped down your throat 5 times and it wasn't your dog. So preemptively, without you bitching about it, I'm so sorry.
And that is one of literally the only reasons why I've joined. I did join specifically to address that question that was just asked about the objective up and down. Just re-ask that question that you were just asked 1 minute ago.
Perfect. So, with the exception of the North Star, are there any other examples of non-relative directions?
No, that's not what you said a minute ago.
Was it not?
No, the question that the super chat gave.
Oh, honest question. If the question of why up is up / down is down, a philosophical question akin to asking why now is now and if the past is real? ?
So it's not philosophical, it's relative to the human. Up and down is relative to the human. The real units, the correct axes, labels that we would normally reference if we were talking about a graph, you'd label your axes as more dense and less dense. Fish don't know anything about what's up and down. Fish just know that it's either more light or less light, more pressure or less pressure, more warmth, less warmth. But if you said to a fish, swim up, they'd have no idea what you're talking about because up isn't one of the descriptors that fish use. In the same way that birds don't fly up and down, they fly following currents or following pressure variances or whatever direction that they fly in, but they don't reference it as up or down, and neither do fish. It's only the human that references up and
strictly
down.
true, though, is it? Because when I reference fish, they just call it, and that's what they call down.
They don't call it up and down, though. That's the point.
Call
Up
it
and down is a human concept that we use to describe. That's why when I say to Nathan, when you say to me, which way is this? And I say it's on your left, I have to say it's on your left, because if I say it's on the left, you're going to go, you mean this left, and put your right hand out. And I say, no, my left. Or we get confused.
The other left.
Yeah, we have relative directions. So the correct unit in this topic, really, we are in a medium. It is a gradient, and we can argue all day about how it's caused. But the point is, the gradient is what denotes the up and the down. But we call it up and down because it's descriptive, but it's not objective. It's relative to the human. The correct units are more dense and less dense because it's the variation in the density of the object relative to the medium or vice versa that controls that direction, that vector, that movement that we call up and down. It's just labels we give it.
Yeah, but in the theater, it's stage left and house left.
Neil and Arwin.
In the theater, it's stage left or house left, or stage right or house right.
Right, that's cute. But I mean, left and right are definitely specific to the observer as to where it's going to be. Up and down aren't. I think this is nonsense. I've never used that. Oh, up means that if you're upside down, that down is suddenly up. No, it isn't. No, it's upside down because one side is up, and if it isn't, it's upside down because up and down are not relative directions. Right?
I've also got plenty of examples where people lose an actual reference, so both in water and in air. So there's been plenty of plane crash examples where they lose their vestibular reference, and for whatever reason, the plane's out of control and the gyroscope is spinning around. Now, there's a good chance it's still actually giving them some visual feedback in terms of what the plane's doing because it's probably spinning around, right? But the point is that
orientation.
Yeah, they can't gain back their orientation at that point. And the same is true for some cave divers. There's plenty of instances where cave divers, they get into the cave and suddenly they lose their orientation. So they think they're going down, or more likely trying to get back out by going up, and they're not. They're going the complete opposite direction. They're going further into the cave when they think they're coming out and up because they've lost their orientation.
Yeah. Right, but that's human error. That has nothing to do with the actual directions and how we use it consciously.
There is no actual direction.
Arwin, answer me this.
There's
when
no
I added that salt to the water, did I vary the amount of up that the egg was subject to, or did I vary the amount of the density of the medium?
Depends on your perspective. Depends if you're the egg or the. Depends on your perspective.
So
depends if you're in the reference frame of the medium and fixed for whatever reason. Let's say you're outside of the glass and you're just watching. Then, according to you, it's gone up.
So, Arwin, was the direction that the egg moved, was that in the more dense, less dense, up or down direction?
Well, by adding the salt, you made the medium more dense.
So which direction did the egg go?
The less dense egg to go up in relation.
No, not up. Less dense. That was the direction. Less dense.
Well, it's going up, though. Less dense in relation to medium always goes up. That's not a relative direction.
But It's always absolute, though. We're in a gradient, and the egg was in a gradient. And it doesn't matter what direction that you're looking at it from, it'll always go towards the less dense because you put more density in it.
Okay, let's
and you
just stop
cause that displacement.
Let's put a stop to this. Let's stop, both of you. Right. Arwen will always be capable of taking the position that he can fix a reference with respect to him. He can always get away with that, and you can always get away with pointing out that it's always relative. Okay, so this will go round in circles indefinitely.
Well, not really, because there is no objective up and down.
See,
but Arwen's now going to reference his.
Always goes up. Less dense always goes up. There's no exception. It's an absolute rule. The direction that it goes at is absolute. The relative and relative density is about the relation between the medium and the object, not the direction. The directions are always absolute.
But Arwen, if we were to draw a graph and we were to label one out. If you were to draw a graph and label one of the axes as density, right? And as we put in more density, it caused more acceleration. You could understand how that line would work, right? But on that same graph, if we were to scribble out the density on the label on one of the axes and describe that as then up, it wouldn't ever make sense then, would it? Because you would be adding more density and the up value would then be changing and you'd be like, what the fuck does that mean? There's no connection.
I barely understand now your description of what you're juggling around with a graph.
No, not at all.
Before a graph is observed, things have to be established, as in, is this at rest? Because then I'm going to assume that where the most dense is within it is going to be down, because that's where the more dense goes to rest.
Sure, you can make assumptions, but that doesn't mean
No. That is always true.
No, you can make assumptions. You can say either we are assuming that we are at rest, or you can say we are assuming that we are falling or accelerating up. It doesn't matter.
If you're going to have a representation, a graph, you must have that information. Otherwise, you're literally just like giving a snapshot and you don't know what you're looking at all.
So are you saying that you've seen a graph where there's been a label on the graph that says we assume that the Earth is accelerating or something similar to
Yes. Stop. No, stop. Yes. I
was first.
The graph has got G on it, and they've slid the scale up one. So
no, my graph didn't have G. My graph just had density on one side and volume on the other. That's all it had.
It's a reification, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not a reification.
You're drawing me into a false dichotomy now that I wasn't partaking in. Thanks.
Is it not a reification though? We're not talking about a graph. I mean, the ground and the sky are not in the same place. One is down objectively and one is up objectively.
Oh, really?
One is down subjectively and one is up subjectively, not objectively, subjectively.
That's not true either. So, subjectively, I've got a sky. Hold on. I've got, by your standard, if I look out the window and I'm reasonably high up, the horizon can be below my position and the sky meets it. Therefore, the sky's below me. Quite literally. It's meeting a point that's below my level. Therefore, below. The sky's meeting it.
The only time that would be possible is
I'm getting rumpused. I can give an example where the sky is below me. I'm getting rumpused. Love it. I give an example where the sky... Third time's a charm. I'm going to give an example where the sky's below me. And you're going to object. I can say the sky's below me. If I've got a horizon and I'm high up, that horizon, matter of fact, is below my position. Therefore, the sky that meets it is also below my position.
The only time that would happen...
Affirming the consequence.
The only time that would happen is when your visibility is that poor that your horizon is very close to you. It's not very far away like it normally is on good visibility days. And then, yeah, that would make sense logically. But that doesn't change that there's an objective up and an objective down.
No. The example I was just given was the sky's always up and the ground is always down. So I contradicted that by giving an example where the sky was down. There's an example. It's not a reification. It's not a straw man. It's just an example that contradicts the idea that the sky's always up. When I can example,
but the horizon isn't. The horizon isn't.
I didn't agree with that, though, Nathan. You're arguing as though I disagreed with that.
Well, I mean, but that was my example. But the horizon isn't the sky, is it?
Yeah, it's where the sky meets the ground.
You said the sky was always up, and it's not.
No. Hold on. When you say the sky meets the ground,
yep.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, it's the apparent location where the sky meets the ground. It's the definition of the horizon.
But do you mean literally, like my hands meeting each other in a clasp?
I mean,
No, it
literally,
appears to me.
it is. It
Oh,
is.
appears.
Oh my God.
Mm.
Okay, I'm answering. Yeah, it does. It literally appears to be meeting the ground. Yeah.
But appears to meet the ground and meeting the ground are not the same thing, is it?
Yeah.
Correct.
It apparently meets the ground. It is apparent.
Yeah, I asked this question the other day. Where does the sky start then? In like directly above the ground, an inch above the ground?
Below the. I've just given an example where it's below. It's below my eye level. It's below me, not below the ground. Below me.
Yeah.
That's true.
But that doesn't
And
change.
the real issue here is you guys are kind of talking about a couple different things. We're talking about up and down, and then the relation of objects being up or down. And that's kind of two different things, I think.
It is. That's why I was trying to get back on track. The point that Arwin was saying was that there is always an up and a down. And Nathan gives an example where, well, the sky, because Elijah said that the sky was always up. And Nathan said, well, actually, if you're on top of a building, the sky can be below you as well, which is true. But it's all relative in any event, because your up in that situation may well be the same as my up, but your down, referencing the sky, would still be my up.
But the sky is like almost everything except for what is not the sky, which is the ground. So where is that thing? Where you are in? Yeah,
Relative,
that's
where you are in.
Yeah,
Relative.
you're in the sky in order to orient yourself where this sky is. Well, you're in it.
Yeah,
Where
exactly.
you are in. That's
exactly.
the key
It's
phrase.
relative
Where
to you.
Are in.
Exactly. Relative to you.
So if you was hanging by your legs by a rope and someone said, look up, do you look at the ground?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the example I always give. If you're hanging upside down from a tree, which way is up?
Up is up. You're just upside down.
Ah, but your up then becomes down.
No, but you could think of it as such, but it isn't, because
proves that it's relative to the human, Alan.
no matter your orientation within.
That's the whole point. It proves that it's subject to the human. That's why your left is my right, and they're not the same. They're not objectively the same.
No, that's not.
Okay, audience, I think I agree with that there.
Absolutely.
Let me separate myself. Let me separate myself from Arwood. I think I agree with that.
Yeah, it isn't. Right and left are absolute in relation to the observer. Up and down are not, but you can make it such in your mind that everything is relative to your observation, and then up and down could be considered as relative to your observation.
Correct.
But in actual reality, they're not. They
Correct.
are absolute.
Spot on. No. Absolute in respect to you and your references. Only that. You did say that at the beginning, so you're correct, because you disclaimed that right at the start. So yes.
No, he didn't say that. He said the opposite. He said that there was an absolute up and down, and I said no, it's relative to the human. That the correct units are more and less dense because we're in density gradients caused by the sun. They are the correct units.
Fascinating stuff.
You can have some people sitting upside down and other people sitting upright up, right? And then they can have a discussion who is upside down and who isn't. But eventually, the ones that are upside down are going to have the headache from the blood heaping up in their head, and the ones that aren't upside down won't.
Yeah, but whether they're upside down or not, if the correct vector is more or less dense, it doesn't matter what their orientation is, because the medium dictates the direction, not the human.
Yeah. So to make it even more convoluted, if you were upside down and in water, assuming that you're going to be roughly equal and therefore go up, the fact that you're pointing downwards matters not when you release yourself from the thing you're holding yourself to the bottom of the pool with. You're going to go up. But from your position, you're going in the direction of your own arse. That makes no sense.
Nathan, what would happen if that water that you were in was accelerating upwards, like Del says? What would the position then be?
Then the Earth would be moving up.
Well, when I'm submerged in water, I know which side is up and down, because if I get disoriented, well, I'll figure it out by the water literally running into my nose because I'm upside down. So you'll find out.
EV97, or is it EVIE? Am I saying that right? EV97 says, but I'm an expert on sound and not an expert on up and down. How's the sound? Is it good? If you're an expert, let me know. With that, though, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to you both, Discord and G Plus panels, for making today's live show possible. If you're watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering stream, stay tuned, as there will be an after show.
With a little bit of maths, but they can't prove it.
Anthony, if you have two people on opposite sides with tug of war with a rope, and then next to them is the same two, different group of two people, and you take away the rope, and they're pretending to have a rope, is there a net force?
Okay, I'm just going to segue away slightly. Right, I'm going to concede to Neil that he's been right all along. Right, normally in some of these shows with fundies, you guys who know me well know that I feign my exasperation. In other words, I'll sometimes ham it up a bit for the sake of making the point clear or making it more entertaining or more... Yeah, I'll ham it up. Right?
Yes.
Today is one of the few occasions that was true, not feigned
Nathan,
exasperation.
were you supposed to run out the show?
Pardon?
Because your YouTube's stalling.
I've ended the show.
Oh, damn it. I just missed that, I guess.
And Nathan
Just pick up on the fact that I'd done a 30-second outro, and then there was a long period of... Okay, whatever. Just try that one more time. Today's exasperation was not feigned. What I'm saying is, I am slightly aghast. Number one, that after the conversation I had with Jaren, his audience is coming here to fight for the globe. I am quite shocked that happened today. And the fundamentalist religious zealot behaviour of the person doing it for the globe. I'm quite shocked at that also.
Nathan, I asked recently, at what point does it become the case that Jaren becomes an anti-flat earther? And it was ignored because it was taken as rhetorical, but it's a legitimate question. At some point, I've said that Bob was anti-science and he was controlled op for a long time. But Jaren's doing the exact same thing, is he not? And if he's not,
already.
I just call it anti-flat earth debater. Like whatever.
Yeah, Jaren shouldn't be an anti-flat earther.
Like whether it's good for the globe or not good for the globe, they deprioritize this.
At what point, when someone is addressed by name, can they speak first?
Are you eating? Disgusting.
Yeah. Are you eating right now? Because you're making me hungry.
Eli, that's a push on a request. A minute ago, no one knew what up and down was. Now you're trying to figure out who gets addressed first. It's going to take a little while for this group.
Well, I thought you were going to have a heart attack, Nathan, so ease up a little bit. But it was very stressful because I don't understand why they're not understanding it plain English. Because they're following a cult. They're following their leader, Jaren, and Witsit.
Yeah, these are supposed to be people on our side, right? These are people that we've rubbed shoulders with. These are people that we've pressed the flesh with. It's just beyond belief. That's why I'm like, you sound like you're going to have a heart attack. Because I can't quite believe it.
It's all past tense statements. We used to, were. Once you adhere to a false narrative and you're going to protect it like they do, you can say, hey, at one time we were on the same page, but now we're not. So what's dividing us? You don't like Aether. No, we want you to prove it first and we'll come alongside with you. No, we can't. It's not manifest, but go along. Yeah, but can you show the science for it? Science doesn't prove things. What?
And it was all three. It was all three arguments, right? It was the downward bias, the tangent line, and the what was the other one?
Science doesn't disprove.
Science doesn't prove things.
Science doesn't disprove, but same spin. Yeah, go on, chocolate.
But what? Like all three arguments he came to parrot here.
That again, asking the question: at what point does Jaren become considered anti-flat Earth?
And I said now. He is already.
Today. That's why the exasperation. That's why me sounding like I'm going to have a heart attack, because I'm realizing as it's happening that I'm trying to illustrate to the audience. I'm currently having a globe Earth versus flat Earth debate with one of Jaren's subscribers, subservients, whatever you want to call him. I kept calling him a globe cult, Jaren cult member. Doesn't matter what I call him. That's irrelevant. What is relevant is he's here telling me how celestial navigation works on a globe. I can't quite believe those words are crossing my lips.
And by
He's a flat
extension,
earther.
Nathan, the question then is whether or not that guy is essentially acting as a gatekeeper for Jaren because Jaren doesn't want to be challenged. I mean, is that not Tactics 101?
Your first question was more relevant. At what point does Jaren become an anti-flat earther? Today. When people come and disseminate his arguments for a globe, what else is he?
He was
He's been an
anti-flat Earth.
anti-flat earther for a while now.
He
Come
was
on.
anti-flat Earth for me when he was pushing Bobbity.
Right, but Anthony, he's just a zealot who came because he's under the influence of the cult. So he's just, it's not like he planned or he's representing Jaren. He actually is in a real role that he actually houses himself. He's a zealot of that position. And then he didn't even know what GP was. He didn't know all these things. And so this is actually good because you run into this throughout life where people follow false teaching and the false teacher's not around, but one of the students is. And then you're saying, well, what about this? What about that? And they, well, hang on, let me call my teacher. Hey, let me call my guru.
Entropy.
Yeah, they don't know why. They just know they're following.
Yes, I heard.
So in the discussion with New Moon, he was talking about up and down in regards to gravity, and the discussion came to the point where that Nathan got frustrated because New Moon was saying that going up is down. Is that what he said?
Yeah, basically.
But then in this later discussion where after New Moon left, then we're talking about the horizon, and Nathan brought up how the sky meeting the earth, that up is down. And so I'm starting to wonder and to think that maybe natural science or physics of the earth is in a very different category than our understanding of sky or air or the controversial term ether, that maybe natural science does not apply to air as it in the same way that it applies to earth.
Yeah, it does. You can manipulate the amount of air in something and then cause a change in pressure.
Well,
Don't do that.
And if you can't,
Hold on, let me just answer this guy. Thank you, Eli. We'll come to Anthony next, then 10th. Science exclusively elucidates the cause of natural phenomena. So if that natural phenomena had something including air in it, then that would be within the purview of science. It's only going to ever deal with naturally occurring phenomena. So when it comes to ether, and you say, well, perhaps ether's outside the purview of science, well, unless we can see something happening, physically demonstrated in nature, then yeah, it's outside the purview of science.
Well, I'm saying, is this convoluting? But I'm saying air is ether.
Oh, God.
It's different.
Can I just say something? Because I gotta go. Look.
Hold on.
Nathan's standing.
I'm sorry. I know I said you could go next.
Sorry.
I'm really sorry. Go ahead, Nathan. Other Nathan. Explain what you mean. Air is ether. What do you mean?
So, I mean, that is the antiquated term for air is ether or heaven. When we talk about air is heaven. And I think that there may be a convoluting thing happening. Sorry?
Telling my own panel off. I'm telling them to let you finish.
Where science is being applied to air in a way that isn't holding true, because we just saw New Moon saying that up is down, and it made everybody frustrated. But then in this later discussion about the horizon and air, also known as sky, meeting the earth, being up is down, right? Because when we're discussing the horizon, so...
No. I want to get to my point, but I'm going to answer him. Hold on. The balloon was down in a vacuum chamber. The air in the balloon was going in all directions. When the balloon pops, the gas in the balloon goes into all directions in the vacuum chamber. It's in every direction. It bounces off each other. That was that argument. Then you brought up Nathan about the horizon. Well, Nathan, all he has to do is do height of eye correction and get his eyeballs on the surface, and he will not have a depression angle anymore. And he won't be above the air.
And just to pick you up, your opening sentence said the word ether used to be the word for air, but that's not actually true. The simile for the word air is atmo, not ether. The word ether is not a simile for air.
Right, exactly. The air, there in the Greek, it's talking about the upper portion of the air specifically, not just the air.
So
But it's not talking about
ether, it
ether.
means like burning. That's where the word Ethiopian, it's like their skin was burnt, so it's darker. And so the higher things, they thought, things that burn, go up, and so the higher levels, but it still is the air.
To be
If that
clear,
was
though,
true,
this is not
if
what
that was
Bob and the
true,
others have
wouldn't
ever
the
been talking
Ethiopian
about.
be spelt with an A?
Yep.
That's still air, just like gas pressure gradient. It's just a silly argument. You still
I'm
got
not
air.
arguing, I'm trying to
No,
understand.
not you. Not you. Look, if you got less air or more air, it's just still air.
It's still the medium, but it's not the ether.
No, I know. We're trying to have them prove to us this ether. They say it's non-manifest.
Yeah, I wasn't
Okay.
talking to you, Tenth. I was talking to our friend here. He said that air and ether were essentially the same thing, and they're not.
Of course not.
And again,
So,
it's just
well,
it's
is
this isn't even
air
what
air? I
Ether,
think with the discussion
ether
of like
doesn't exist.
a down and an up, or is that relative? Or and it comes into the discussion of earth and air. And so these are different categories. And so when people talk about that there is an up and that there is a down, that they're making a distinction between the category of air and earth, or heaven and earth, or above and below. And then I think that it kind of gets into, talking past each other, where maybe, Nathan, you're not.
How does that make air ether? How does that make the air the ether?
Maybe
The air is not the
I'm
ether.
talking about two different things, but
yes, you are talking
You know
about two
what's
different
going on is
Ether
people are
that
trying
you're
to.
talking about is a background medium. That's a conceptual model, or whatever they want to say. You're kind of conflating that with the classical definition of ether rooted from the Greek. These are not the same concepts. And part of the problem with this entire thing is that nobody can still define what ether is when they're talking about it.
Well, you would have to show it.
That's the bottom line.
So then that's why we find it a little weird when because I was repeating what you said. I'm not sure if it was you, but it was one of you guys that said
air is
the air
ether.
is the ether. Right.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to clear up, because the other guys that argue ether aren't saying it's the air. They're saying it's what you said. Logical framework, conceptual background, medium, that thing that is required for things to propagate through. Right?
Can't be what he said either, because that would be an equivocation fallacy. But go on.
An effect in interferometry at present, that's what's claimed to be proof of the ether.
Right. I think the term 0 point energy would be less confusing than ether.
Well, what does 0 point energy mean? What does that mean? Can someone tell me what that actually means? 0 point.
I can. There's no. You can't validate 0 point, like as in a complete vacuum. So it's a non reality term for an argument that could be applied to something that doesn't exist.
Yeah. So it's a nothing term, is what. Like, I mean, this is the point I'm making. The terms don't have any relevance to the tangible world we live in. This is the thing.
Right.
People keep on trying to fit ether into here, and this is ether, and that is ether, and that is because of the ether, and this is because of the ether. No, the ether just doesn't exist. Everyone's trying to somehow make it exist in some way. If it existed, we wouldn't have to argue about whether it existed or not. Do you know what I mean?
Right. My point is that
just like gravity.
Well, we didn't hear the response to the 0 point. I mean, we can't talk about 6 different things if we want the audience to follow along. You got to pick something, guys. If you're going to all talk at once, have the same point.
The point I was trying to make is that the discussion about up and down, there has to be a recognition that there's different categories, and air is a different category than earth. And so the people that are saying there's a up and a down,
we know that.
They're living in this reality where air is different than the earth, which is beneath our feet. And
that's just a
and
truism.
I believe
What's your
that is
point?
natural science.
No, it's just a truism. Like, I have a tree in my backyard. That's not natural science. That's just something that's true. There's a difference.
Okay, then.
But what
Okay, then I'm saying that natural science can't be applied to the air.
Yeah, I told you that when I said when you manipulate the amount of air in a given space, it'll increase the pressure.
Yeah, but the whole system,
I'm confused,
everything,
man.
all air.
I'm confused. You're telling us that air is different from the ground.
Right.
Okay.
That's a fact.
Do you think that nobody knows that? I'm
well, in the
slightly
argument
confused.
that there's no up and there's no down, or the argument that
how is that related to air is not the ground? What does that have to do with up and
because
down?
air is always up and the ground is always down.
Okay,
dude,
that again has nothing to do with the air being different than the ground. Air is air. Air is gas, right? The ground is solid. There's obviously a
different
difference.
from
I'm not
down.
trying.
Less dense and more dense. Now what? What are you trying to say?
This is why
I
I'm
agree
here
with
to
that.
learn stuff.
Need to establish if he's a Ether believer or not.
Why? Who cares unless he's claiming it?
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm just
that
trying to
word is
understand
so
where you're coming
convoluted
from.
anyway. I mean, we're talking about distinction of air here, but
No, we're not.
I think there's a connection.
But we're not. That we're not. You're not. The ground is the ground. The air is the air. Up and down is non sequitur to up and down is too ambiguous. Like we just spoke about on the show, just saying up and down is non sequitur to the ground and the air. When you're just saying up and down. Now, you saying air can be applied to natural science. Well, in the way that I applied it, sure. But I don't get your point beyond that. Like, I'd hate to go back into this circular loop where you begin again. What's your point?
Yeah. The point I'm trying to make is I'm trying to understand. So, Nathan, you usually give the argument.
Wait. Do you have a point or you're trying to understand something? Wanted to pick one first and then I'll have a follow up. Are you trying to understand something?
Yeah, trying to understand.
Okay. What is that something specifically?
So I'm trying to understand when the argument is made that there is an up and a down. And Nathan says there is no up and down bias because of natural science. Is that a correct summary?
I don't say there's
Do you
no
want
up
to
and
clear
down.
that up,
I say
Nathan?
it's relative, with the exception of the North Star, but I don't blame it on natural science.
Yeah, I didn't hear you make that claim to natural science. I don't know where he's getting that from.
Well, isn't that the argument that's made here a lot against like a up or down bias, or with a down bias?
That there is no downward bias because things also go up. So there's no
Right.
bias either way, right? Because if we're going to say there's a downward bias, then I can say there's an upward bias for things that don't go down, right? So saying
And
there's a
so I'm
bias in the
saying that
first place
only
is
that
just
applies. You're applying that they're saying there's no bias, but you're kind of overreaching into two different categories: the
Why?
air and the ground.
No. Try to understand what I'm saying. There are people that say that there is a downward bias, right? If there is a downward bias, then everything would go down. And obviously that's not the case, right? Because
Yeah,
some
the air
things go
doesn't go down.
down, some things go down, some things go up, some things stay
Yeah,
neutral,
I
depending
agree.
on what they are and where they are, right?
Yeah.
So then why would you say that there's a downward bias? Because you see one particular thing go down. So then if I look at something else that's going up, I could say there's an upward bias. And then we're all over here with
Yeah,
all our
so
biases, right?
so I think, yeah, I guess I'm kind of formulating my understanding that there has to be different categories then. And the way that natural science is being applied here is that the laws apply to everything. And so there is going to be different
Laws
laws
aren't
to
science.
air as there is to earth.
Laws aren't science, my friend. Laws are just descriptions of the natural world.
You're saying air. Can you say gas pressure? Would that be air as well? Would you agree with that?
I think the one
Hang on, hang on.
one-on-one's doing really good
Hang
right now.
on.
I think the one-on-one's doing
Did you
really good
not?
right now.
Did
Let
you
them go.
not hear me ask a question?
Gas pressure.
Is that the same as air to you? The air you're talking about?
Pressure is a description of what happens to the air. There
Right.
can be
So
higher or
the
lower
air you're
pressure.
oh gosh. The air you're breathing now, is that pressurized? Yes or no?
Absolutely. 14
Great. Do you need it?
psi.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you need a container for pressurized air? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So this up and down, this ether, this downward bias is just another attempt to prove gravity that doesn't exist. Okay.
That's not really what I'm saying. I'm just trying to understand, I'm trying to make so now I'm making a point that there is different categories, and up and heaven or air, whatever you want to call it. Ether would be the higher, the antiquated term ether would be the higher levels of heaven or air or sky, and ground or earth is down.
Ether is a medium, not air.
Can you cite that? Can you cite where you got that air is used to be called ether or something? Would you be able to?
Well, air, I
Now we're
think, is a
talking about
modern
something
term.
else, man. Jesus Christ.
And no blasphemy unless you're going to praise his name.
That's
Do we have
not
an ether sphere or is a stratosphere? Do we have something called an ether sphere? Sphere-shaped ether. Do we have that?
We're just
I don't know
talking
what that
about
is.
whether the up
Neil,
is
let
up
the
and down is
1v1 go
down.
down.
Like we're just getting to the point. Do you guys remember when my friend Nathan Thompson came on the show and he was confused about laws in natural science when we were talking about Anthony's egg thing up and down? Like that's where we were. And now we're not. I just thought that should be cleared up.
What, that laws aren't science?
Yeah, because it sounds like he has a problem with the fact that there's no way to, it's not like you can scientifically validate up and down. Like, and he's not being clear enough for us to understand. I'm just looking at a pattern here. He's the one that brought up laws. And so it's like, I just want to know where he's going with this because we're talking about mad different things right now.
Yeah, but hold on. What is still doesn't is it's not going to be a law. It's still just a what is. Laws still pertain to things that happen always. It's not just what is that can be classified as a law.
Okay.
Right? It's just an
If I
observation.
can hop in real quick, a source for Wikipedia.
Okay, stop.
for the
Everyone
in-
stop. Right, we're gonna have fresh grown flowers, then banter, then one deck. Go ahead.
I just my personal opinion for a grain of salt, it's like 4 or 5 on 1 right now. I think the original 1v1 was going great, and it should continue.
All right. I just wanted to add for Wikipedia right here, talking about ether. For the ancient Greeks, the word ether referred to the upper atmosphere, a material element of the cosmos. And there's actually another source to a book by some people's name I can't pronounce. But
Oh,
okay,
a
but
material element. We should be able to differentiate that from the air down here, then, huh?
No. That's what they.
Aren't the Greeks the hijackers?
Hold on.
The Greeks are the
Everyone stop.
hijackers,
Hold on. Him defining the etymology doesn't mean we're going to automatically commit the etymological fallacy. That is not what it means. Because the ancient Greeks called ether the quote-unquote what now? Atmosphere? Okay. No. Just because it used to be referred to as ether by some time gone by people doesn't mean that that's what it means today. Ether is not air.
And the
I
Greeks
guess
did
the
not
point
use
I'm
the
trying
word
to make is that
atmosphere.
air is not natural. I mean, yeah, I understand that you're saying adjust the temperature, the pressure, and in that way, there can be natural science applied to air.
Sure.
But we can't. It's not natural in the sense that all of it, all of heaven, that we can't. It's kind of like the Arwinian paradox, right? We apply.
What?
Isn't that Arwin how you talked about the astrophysicists with their pseudoscience applying
No, it's
earthly things
the
to
Arwinian
heaven?
paradox. The Arwinian paradox is about the claim of terrestrial refraction having the R value that would have to be measured visually within the formula, making it impossible to measure it. That's the Arwinian paradox. It's very specific.
In any event, you're juxtaposing air with heaven, and what you describe
No,
as
with Earth.
okay.
And I think that the argument that you often make, if I'm understanding correctly, is that they have to be in the same category when you make the argument that there's no downward bias.
Boy, this is a cluster screw.
Yeah,
This
okay,
is
let's just start there then.
Are you
Okay.
saying that air is not natural?
Yes.
I knew it.
Well, it is, but you're breathing it. It's a perfectly natural thing.
Supernatural means above natural. So earthly is natural. Heavenly
Air
is
is supernatural.
not.
Okay, so you're saying we're
No,
breathing.
no.
Okay, we're breathing a bit of heaven. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty then.
Okay. Other than renaming air.
Well, it's an antiquated name.
Try again. Hello. Other than renaming air ether, what is the difference between air and its new rename ether? Is it exactly the same thing other than having a new name?
Well, we don't have life, as you often argue, without air.
That wasn't the question.
Non sequitur, man.
Okay, yeah,
My
total
gosh, that
non-sequitur.
wasn't.
Let's try again.
I don't have supernatural tire pressure.
Thank you. So, other than changing,
If you take away your breath, do you have life anymore? No.
That's fascinating. Thank you.
Well, you're wrong
I'll
right
just try
there,
it one more
because
time,
Alchemy now,
Nathan.
not science.
Thank you,
you're
Arwen.
wrong
Thank you for helping
again.
Arwen. Now he'll set off again. I'll try my third time with Arwen's interruption, which will encourage the guest to interrupt me. Let's try that again, hopefully without Arwen making it easier for the guy to interrupt my question. Thank you.
I guess you didn't hear John.
No,
interrupting.
Arwen's going to encourage that interruption, so I get further away because of my own fucking panel. Thank you, Arwen. If you rename air Ether, other than renaming it in your world that you're describing here, is there any difference whatsoever between air and its new name, Ether? What's the difference? Is there any difference between the two? Even is it just the name change?
No, we're still breathing it. There's still pressure gradient. There's still.
So is that a yes? They're exactly the same?
I'm just trying to understand. I don't.
Yeah,
like
me too.
I said,
Me too.
I'm
That's
not.
why I'm asking you something. So I'll ask again.
Yeah, they're the same.
Well, then we don't need to rename it. It's already got a name. It's called air. It doesn't need renaming Ether. It's already described, defined in every dictionary with a description of what it does under the title air. So other than for literally no reason whatsoever, why would we rename it Ether?
Trying to seek truth, right? Like you said, that's a good thing.
That's total non sequitur. Given that we have a description of what air is, why would it make any difference calling it Ether? How can that make a difference? It doesn't.
To recognize that there's a supernatural aspect to air.
Above natural, but it's not supernatural. It's natural. Air is natural, not supernatural.
Is that an assumption though? Because
no, definitely not.
That's a fact.
So that kind of ties into atomism, right? With air and like helium particles.
Told you he was an etherite.
Can I just thank you, Neil? Do you need me to get pissed with you? What's going on? Go ahead, Nathan.
So air is not supernatural in any way.
So it's natural then. So renaming it Ether so that people pay attention to the unnatural, supernatural aspect of it when it's completely natural would be absurd then.
So I don't know. There is no supernatural aspect to air, is what you're saying.
Supernatural means above the natural.
Exactly. In the natural world, the earth is below
air's
the
a part
earth,
of that.
or
Whether
below
or not
the
it's
air.
supernatural, it only has to be part of nature to be natural. Air's definitely a part of nature, therefore it's not supernatural.
Yeah. Supernatural would be information, for example. It doesn't physically exist. It exists within our consciousness. That's what makes it supernatural.
There's a list. QE,
He
you
said
there?
you can't live without air. Can you live without blood? Is blood supernatural now?
Thank you. QE, have you got your list to hand? Are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah.
There's a list like charge, momentum, spin, calories, kcals, joules.
Yes, that's energy. So anything that's physical is molecular structure, charge, matter, momentum, or spin, or energy as millielectron volts, kcals, or kilojoules. That's the definition of what physical is. That's matter and energy.
And would air come under
I
that?
think that's connected to this discussion of up and down.
No
So
crap.
like potential
no crap. It was
energy,
me
the
making the
higher
point.
you go.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it's definitely connected. I'm making the point.
Oh, sorry. I got it.
So air, definitely natural, not supernatural. It's not like thoughts. Yeah? Air isn't like thoughts.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's natural. So why would we need to relabel it ether so that people appreciate the supernatural aspects of it?
I mean, that isn't what I was really trying to argue, that we'd rename it. But I am kind of thinking that there's a supernatural part of air, because the higher you get, right, the higher energy, potential energy. So say you lift up an object, a 1 kilogram object, the higher you go, the more, the harder it's going to hit the ground when it falls. And I think this is part of the struggle that people that think there's a downward bias are trying to work through.
What? But it goes faster up there because there's less air pressure, less friction, so it will go faster.
Yeah, but it's not connected. He's not connecting anything. It's like sporadic, convoluted
Yeah, I
stuff.
know.
That's not connected.
The air being supernatural in nature, and then showing how there's a relative density example that you can make that doesn't connect to how air is somehow supernatural.
The fact that it increases energy, that's
What does?
supernatural.
What increases energy?
The
Yeah?
higher you lift an object
The object that's not air.
within the air,
Yeah.
the higher you go in the air, you have more potential energy.
That's the object, bro.
Oh my gosh, a 50 caliber bullet has more what?
Everything's limited. It's called terminal velocity. What are you talking about?
Now we're on to terminal
Yeah, who
velocity.
cares?
Boy,
We're talking
well
about
off
whether
the
or not air
reservation.
is supernatural, and we're talking about objects moving through air.
So the position in the air, so the position changes the amount of potential energy. And without the air,
So there's
in the item,
gunpowder.
in the item,
I'm
not
sorry,
the air.
Nathan.
Let's try that a third time. In the item, not the air.
It's not, the air isn't doing anything in
It's
your
not you
description.
I'm looking for a response from Arwin. Did you feel it was directed at you? Clearly not. Try that again.
Just
The protracted
elucidate.
silence is sufficient. All this is doing is distracting from the point. He's got a point, an argument that he's making, Arwin. He, not you. He's saying the item increases its potential energy as they lift it through the air. My response, that's the item, not the air. Now there can be a protracted silence while he either responds or doesn't.
there are two different categories, the air and the item.
No shit. You're detailing the item, not the
That's what
air.
I'm saying.
Yeah, meanwhile, you want the air to be ether. So do you want to just focus on the air rather than now telling us that you've introduced a new category to your example that isn't the
The
air?
relation
Yeah, we know
between the
that.
two
Yeah, now I'm still exampling
changes.
how we know that. We know it's different. It's a different category. Fresh Green Flowers, can you pop yourself on mute, please? We know it's a different category. It's the item, not the air, and it's the air that you want to be ether. And are claiming it's got supernatural properties, and then you're detailing items. And when we point out that's not the air, you say, well, they're different categories. Yeah, no shit. That's our point. So do you want to focus on the thing you need to prove is ether, the air, as opposed to the item you're moving through it? Because it's a different category, as you rightly point out. Yes, you've introduced a category
relation
error.
between the two
Yes, you have
items,
introduced
right,
a category error into your example.
Category air.
Yes.
When we're discussing a relation between an item within the air in different positions.
Were we? There was me thinking that air was ether and that it's got supernatural properties. Oh no, we were actually focusing on this category error you've introduced, weren't we? No, we weren't. Obviously not, or we wouldn't be pointing out that's not what we're talking about. But you're going to tell us it is what we're talking about. No, we weren't. We were talking about this batshit insane nonsense that the air is ether. It isn't. It's air. It's defined as such. You told us that air would be defined the same if it was ether or air. So it's got no difference. We'll keep it as air then. So where are we getting ether from? Well, if I introduce a new category of something that isn't air and describe what it does, then ether is mystical and has supernatural properties. No, that's a non sequitur category error. So let's go from your category error. It's not the air, it's not ether. There's no supernatural properties being demonstrated here. Just introduced a new thing.
Okay, so let's put the item
Why?
in
It's not the air.
on the earth.
Why? When we're detailing air being ether, why are we going to stick with this category error? Do you need us to say again it's not the air? Is that not sinking in?
It is in a relation to the air.
I see. He didn't murder him, but it's his niece. So, yeah, you can chuck him in jail. Makes perfect sense.
No. So
no,
you
it doesn't.
take
Doesn't
the
make any
item,
sense. I don't
and
care
it's
how
in
it's
the air.
related. If you want to example the relativity of air to items, the scientific validity that's been provided by Anthony is on the panel. We can
Sure.
demonstrate with scientific validity that relationship. If you want to describe vector change, downward bias, if you want to prove that, you can. It's been done. So yeah, we don't need any assumptions about what air is with a relative example when we can validate that scientifically, the relationship with vector change. Meanwhile, air's not supernatural. We don't need to relabel it ether.
Okay.
You're the one
I
fighting for
just
doing
found
it,
it interesting that the argument with New Moon, that you said that there's you got. I mean, everybody was frustrated when he was saying that down is up is down, right? Up is down, and then in discussion,
That wasn't his argument.
yeah, I guess
We're
Huey
talking about
answered that
gas
one.
anyway.
That the horizon, when the horizon meets the Earth in the distance, then up is down.
No, it isn't. It doesn't mean up is down. It means that the sky is below me at the horizon. That's all it means, as I specifically and explicitly outlined. If I can example where my eye line has a horizon below it and the sky ipso facto meets that horizon, then ipso facto there is a certain portion of sky that is below me. Not that down is up suddenly. That's absurd.
And
For
that wasn't
air, down
Newman's
is up.
argument either.
Right?
Newman's
I mean,
argument
isn't that
wasn't
kind of your
up is
argument
down.
Did I
with
say
the
air?
containment
I
of
didn't
air?
say
It goes in
air.
every distance.
No, I didn't say air meets the ground. Sky. Sky
The
meets the
same
ground.
thing. Air,
Oh, is it?
sky.
Is it?
Ugh.
Is it?
Sky is
Different
air.
words. So what, like sky is the same as air, which is the same as ether? So suddenly the sky is ether? No. The sky is the sky.
Sky is air.
Is it? What's the sky? Air? I don't know that's the case.
You don't know that?
Air doesn't tend to change colour. What you got? Come back.
It does every time
Really?
you look up at the
The
sunset.
sky. So the sky is now the air, so therefore air changes colour. No, it doesn't. Air is completely colourless and invisible. What are you babbling about? Air does not change colour. That's something else. You're thinking of the sky. Oh, what's that? They're the same thing. Why have they got different...
So the
fundy
problem is
muting.
narrow
Nathan,
and wide
Nathan,
definitions.
hello. You need to fundy mute your absurd shite that I'm taking apart. The sky has a definition. It's the sky. And the air
you
has
would
a
say the
definition.
sky
Fundy
is
muting.
not air.
Fundy muting. You're a Jaren fan, right? Cult member, Nathan.
No,
Well, then shut up.
I want to learn.
Well, then shut up while I'm talking and you'll learn something.
Okay.
You'll learn that when something's got a word like sky, it doesn't mean soil. You understand that, right? They're different words. Equally, when you
Certainly.
say sky, that's you learning, is it, while you're talking? As I'm talking? That you learning? Pin your ears back
I
and just
think
listen.
with the mics,
Just
that
listening is
I'm
basic
trying to
English.
affirm
Basic
that I'm
English.
listening.
It's just basic English, Nathan. Like a word and its meaning. Sky means something, air means something. They're different. You want the sky to be the air, and based on that absurd shite, you've told me that air changes colour. No, it doesn't. That's just stupid. But you want an ether belief / want to learn while you interrupt me. No, you don't. You want your ether to be true. So you're prepared to change the meanings of words so that it makes ether real. That's what you're actually doing. That's a fact. So ether's air, ether's sky, sky is ether. They're all the same thing. It's all very, what, supernatural? No, air is air. It's definitely not supernatural. The sky is the sky. It's not air. And ether is bollocks. That's what it is. You've just been duped.
The end result is they want God to be the ether.
Thank you, Neil. It's not like I haven't told you about 15 times this show not to give you colour commentary. But you understand the sky and the air are different things. You want them to be the same. They're not. Air doesn't change colour.
Yeah. The sky is air.
So
I mean,
air changes
that's-
colour. The colourless gas that is air that we breathe changes colour. That'd be a no. It's just a different word with a different meaning and it's a different thing, but you want it to be the same so you can retain your ether faith.
I don't have faith in the ether. I have faith in Jesus Christ.
So why are you here babbling on about ether then? You want to change the word from air to ether, quite literally. Silence.
The ancient conception.
Don't tell me what the ancients do. You've come here telling us that we're going to change the bloody meanings of words. How dare you? No. You've got such an intrinsic faith in ether that you're prepared to change the meanings of words over it. Air's not ether. Sky isn't air. These are different things with different words and different definitions. I'm trying to take you through basic English while you interrupt me and tell me that you want to learn. I'll try again, Nathan. This is basic English. You don't need to interrupt basic English lessons. Words that are different with different definitions and different meanings are different. That's really basic stuff, but you don't accept because you want one word with a different definition to a different word to be the same thing. No, the only reason you're doing it is because you've got such an intrinsic faith, not in Jesus Christ, but in ether. The thing you're peddling, the thing you want to mean something else, the thing you want to ascribe to a different definition for a different word. That's your faith in ether, not Jesus. Ether. Faith, you have. You want to change the definitions of words.
I have faith in the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit.
I couldn't give a shit. Fascinating though it may be about your faith in the Holy Spirit, you've also got a faith in ether.
And Ruach is the wind.
I don't care. Shut up. Why are you babbling through me, you fundy?
I'm just
Ether's
trying to
not
have
air.
a discussion. And
Ether
wind is
isn't
not
air.
Can I define the current ether, if I may?
You're going to cobble this together for humorous sake out of 100 different people's definitions, aren't you?
Yes.
No, I'm trying to find the truth, and I think that sometimes when we leave out the
was
guiding
talking to
principle of
Did you hear-
truth, which is Scripture,
I'm sorry. Did you
When
hear
we
me
leave
when I
out
said
scripture-
would you like me to define what ether is currently? Did you guys hear me?
Yeah, we heard you.
Would you like me to do that?
If you run
Yes,
this past
please.
Would that help?
Speaking to you, Nathan, not me, Nathan.
Yeah, I'll listen.
This is from James Clerk Maxwell, 1878. Ether. Ethers were invented for planets to swim in, to constitute electric atmospheres and magnetic effluvia, to convey sensations from one part of our bodies to another, and so on, until all space had been filled 3 or 4 times over with ethers. The only ether which has survived is that which was invented by Huygens to explain the propagation of light. End of citation.
It's Huygens, by the way, but you're excused as an American.
Yeah, less of the colour commentary. Please.
So, ether in the modern and narrow definition is that it's a medium for the propagation of light, which is not scientific.
Right. Doesn't preclude it from being scientific.
But light comes from or through the air.
Oh my gosh, I gotta go. But let me just correct them from the Christian point of view. And then tomorrow we could do the video that was scheduled today. Can you offend, blaspheme, grieve air?
According to the scientific definition of air, no.
Thank you. So Bible says that the unforgivable sin is against the Holy Spirit, blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. You just said that's air. When the Bible refers to God breathed into the nostrils of men life, that doesn't make the Holy Spirit air. He's a spirit.
In the
And you know what
beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Excuse me. I'm in the middle of something here. And Jesus gave the exact definition. He says, handle me and see, for a spirit does not have flesh and bone as you see me have. As when the disciples saw him after the resurrection, they thought they saw a ghost. Oh my, a Holy
Bodily
Ghost,
resurrection.
Holy Spirit. You know, you want to just keep talking while I'm talking? Do you offend, grieve, blaspheme, err?
In the discussion.
Holy shit.
You already answered no. So that means you're wrong.
No to what?
I'm tired of this guy who's just making up stuff, talking out of his mind, trying to figure out what 2 + 2 is live on air. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
So Jesus was on the water, just as the Holy Spirit was over the water.
What?
Listen, keep Christianity out of this. You're making us all look bad. Knock it off
No,
and
he's
go
not
away.
making us all look bad, just himself. This is just, he seems to have a lot of trouble just understanding things, and his intellectual application of trying to put it together seems very primitive. I mean, I recognize the level. This is really...
No, he's a liar, Owen, because when I said right away he just wants an ether, he said, no, I'm not an ether. You're an etherite.
Okay. Thanks for putting words in my mouth,
is.
Neil.
It's just he doesn't really know what ether is. Surprise, surprise.
I just have a question. When you're breathing in and out, do you think do you call what you're breathing in and out sky, or do you just call that air?
It's a part of the sky. Yeah.
So you're breathing sky. You
could
want us
say
all
that.
to start
I've never
calling.
heard any human being say that.
You want us to start calling the air we breathe sky.
Only
Can I
gods
get in?
breathe sky in mythologies. Humans breathe air.
Hey, I wasn't trying to upset anybody. I'm just, it's definitely is a journey trying to
You're
learn
not
truth.
upsetting us. We're just trying to follow a coherent point, and I have to be honest. You haven't really made one.
We're not that the earth and the sky or air are different, and that
We're not
they
upset.
can't
We're
be.
dumbfounded.
Guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a better word. And then you're telling us again, the sky and the ground are different. Like, thanks.
Okay.
But we know the sky is the air is not ground. We get that.
Go on, Roto.
Guys. Yeah, thank you, Nathan. This is a great opportunity to redirect what this show is all about. See, I want to say there's a reason that there was a separation of church and state in the United States, because even though the church may be truthful, to mingle it with state affairs, human affairs, they classified it for a reason. They separated it for a reason. The scientific method is what this channel adheres to. It's the separation of these knowledges. To little Nathan, I want to say, I think I hear what you're saying. Just to say to you, to widen the lens, you are on a plane. There are 4 elements: earth, wind, air, water, fire. Those are the earthly elements that we deal with here. There's a true up, a true down. A plumb and resting water are good orientations to show that. Now, what you're talking about is the spiritual aspect of things. These are kind of no reasons why these conversations don't go on here because it's a bottomless pit. It doesn't mean that it might not be true. What you're talking about, ether, we are land-based creatures. Everything that we do is going to be within the air around us. So what we notice about air, as you go up, there is a gradient. It gets less and less material. The thing that used to be known, used to be supposed about this plane we're on, is that it is the material. The celestial is the celeste. Comes from the word celeste, the heavens. So as we rise, there's less and less material, less and less material, period, less and less physicality until you reach the heavens where there's no material, zero material. You are into the ether at that point. Air
What? That
is
doesn't
not
actually
the
exist.
ether.
Oh, and please.
Well, these are just, please don't ask me to cite anything. I'm not prepared for any of that. I'm just saying, I think the lineage of this knowledge about what little Nathan's talking about, possibly trying to mingle the spiritual into the natural sciences. This is why the separation of classification is here to begin with. Jaron may want to talk about ether. It may be worth talking about. There's spiritual channels that may talk about God and Jesus and all kinds of things. But this channel is about when you put your hand on the ground and you get a fistful of soil. That's what we're working with. These types of things. We start there because what we notice is the celeste, you can't do that with. You can only observe. Men have always wanted to go there in their arrogance. We can't go that high. The material can only go so high, period. There's no, you can't get past it. But men have always wanted to go there. And they see this gradient boundary that separates the material from the heavens. But we're not going anywhere. So we're bound to say, well, what do we have to work with here? We can speculate, but we have to call it speculation. So when we start mingling spiritual and things like that into soil, they may be connected, sure enough, true. But it's just so important to classify right now what is what. And natural science is about the natural world, which includes air that we breathe. There is an up and down. There is air. There's fire, water, and earth. And that's what we work with. And so that's just kind of what I wanted to say. Little Nathan, I don't think you're necessarily off base, but this is not the channel to be talking about ether in the heavens, right? Because nobody's going to touch that.
He could talk all he wants about it.
Well,
There's no problem with him talking about it.
Well, I didn't really even feel it was about spiritual stuff, if I may. It was more like the old alchemy type thinking. That's what the ancients did. That's what the old Greek did, right? It's a kind of basic logic trying to involve a comprehension of everything and relations between them, right? Which you could argue eventually led to the scientific method. That type of thinking led to that. But it's still very primitive, and a lot of things about it are just based on absolutely not knowing anything about it.
Okay, but did
right?
you all pick up
Because
on...
they didn't have flying capability. They didn't measure it. They had a high mountain as a reference, like, hey, the air seems to be thinner here. And then like, whoa, mystery, why? Well, they build a thinking around why to try and explain it like humans do. And that's what it sounded like.
This
It
may
had
be a
nothing to do with actual
Okay, I'm trying to get a word in.
people.
So, but no one's seeming to parrot back Roto's point that we've got a spiritual side of exploration with lots of speculation and wonderment and all that sort of jazz. And then we've got us rooted in the physical. Yeah, that's the distinction. We're not stopping anybody from having their spiritual journey into the ether. Be our guest, you fucking hippie. But don't poison us with it. That's all we ask, right? Because we're rooted in the physical. Now, if you've got some spiritual journey that you want to go on, fine. Good for you. I'm not opposing yoga either. I don't care. But when you start transposing that into the physicality of our world, then I have got a problem. Why? Well, because you haven't got any evidence of it. If you want to start asserting that these things have some bearing on our physicality, prove it. Show me it. Oh, no. If we think of air as being supernatural, piss off. Get lost. Go to some fucking hippie forum. I'm not stopping you from talking about your crap, but if your crap's got some proof in physicality, I want that. And if you haven't got it, then you are in the wrong place. Go and have your spiritual journey elsewhere. I couldn't care less.
All right. Hey, thanks, Nathan. Have a good day.
Fine. Have fun on your spiritual journey. Brian broke this down for Brian Leake, who didn't realise that his endeavours into Aether were a spiritual nature, or of a spiritual nature. Yeah? And Brian broke it down for him, and he's like, really? Yeah. What do you think you're talking about? Counter space? Do you think that is? Do you think that's something you're going to get hold of and touch? Do you think it's got any tangibility to it? No. What do we exclusively deal with? Physics. Yeah, well, we've got a lot of bullshitters out in the circuit who are flat earthers who want to embark on this non-physical, spiritual crossover journey that is brought to life through ideas of electricity and counter space and free energy and Tesla. No, if you've got something to actually physically show me, just show it me. That's it. Oh, you got to show it. That's all you got to do. And when we actually inquire what they've got to offer, they've got this journey of discovery through air being supernatural. Oh, get lost. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, the categorization, by the way, that you called, that's literally science fiction. It is all science fiction.
And point of order, Your Honor, I wanted to interrupt, but I felt it was improper. But point of order, Your Honor, there is life without air. They're called obligate anaerobes.
Yeah.
Or you're going to have to redefine life.
There is life living in...
I would like to say, though, that there is a ball busters this Saturday. Just in case there is one. I just don't know what we're going to do it on. I'll think of something, but there is a ball buster Saturday. Thank you.
Good to know. This is the bottom line, right? We're realists. Yes, occasionally some of the Christian members on the panel will talk about their faith in Christianity in the pre-shows and after-shows, which is strictly this. But bear in mind, we are talking about the ether, right? We're not stopping anybody doing anything. Here we are. We've got our agenda. We want to know the physics of it. That's it. We want to know how our physical reality breaks down and how it represents itself to us so we can explore that. That's all we're interested in. Well, didn't the title of the show give that away? You know, Flat Earth Debate. It's about the Earth. Now, if you want to talk about the metaphysical or the spiritual or any of those sorts of things, we're just going to lose interest quick, aren't we? Now, you can sex up your religious belief that you've now got as a flat earther into being suppressed by the Flat Earth Debate crew. Yeah, that'll really sex it up for the Muppets that follow you. I'm sure they'll find it extra sexy. They want to suppress this truth. Yeah, you go. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. We want to shut that down. Yeah. It's really sexy. So dangerous. No, we just want to know what you've got to actually show us in physical reality. If you ain't got jack, then we're going to say that. Oh, you haven't got anything. No, you're suppressing us. No, we're pointing out you got nothing. No, don't trouble us with it anymore. Go away. Oh, they're stopping everyone talking about it. No, you came to us to tell us about it. We asked you what you got in physical reality. You didn't have dick, so we sent you packing. That's not us suppressing you, you moron.
It's the G spot. That's what makes it sexy. It's the G spot. It's the Gina point.
Low point. Get it right, please.
The glow point.
the Gina point.
Gina point was better.
Damn, Gina.
Just say what you see. Say what you see. What am I seeing? It's a tangent. It's a tangent with a 90. I'm seeing something. It's the Gina point.
That was great.
And when that guy just really, I couldn't say it earlier. Sorry?
I want you to talk about Brian Leake.
For me?
Yeah. That really stuck with me.
Yeah, I don't think he realised that Aether is. That's why I asked. That was why it was the tone of my first question to Austin was: is Aether not just a fourth dimensional spiritual belief? You know what I mean? Because that's what Austin said to me, that it was a spiritual belief, basically, when we were talking last year, or Whitset, I should say. Like, I don't think Brian Leakey realizes this. I don't think any of these people realize this. This is something that's not experienceable in our 3D reality. But that's not being promoted. They're promoting it as something that's, they're not stating it's there, but they're implying that it's there in our 3D reality. And when I said that to Brian Leakey, he was like, oh, well, I won't be into that. So people are just hoodwinked so easy by, elaborate words and suggestion,
I'm just saddened today. It's a sad day for me. This is, we're starting to realise that within our community that we often reject and say we don't want to be a part of, probably because we're scorned so much. But our community has got loads of hoodwinked people being duped by new cults, all under the banner of Flat Earth. You're like, oh my God.
I'm surprised it took you to just today, Nathan.
Say again?
I'm surprised it's took you to today to realise that. I mean, I saw that frequently with other people. I'll not name specifically names, but it's been there for a while, Nathan.
Give me an example. Because today's example, before you do, today's example is a man under the guise of being a Jeranism fan and a Jeranism defender, even taking on the persona of his representative at times, fought me for how celestial navigation works on a tangent point with 90 meeting it in space, therefore works on a globe that isn't in a globe and isn't the correct description of how it should be argued. But that's where I had a Jeranism fan with using his name as his representative in name only, fighting for the globe. I mean, that's over. I couldn't give a better example of how I can say, well, that's why it's a sad day. Unless you can give a better example that you experienced, that would be like, bloody hell, yeah. If that happened to me, I'd have felt this a long time ago.
I could give 3.
Go on then.
Like Bob with Bobbity, claiming that when Bob measured something with the accelerometer, and then rather than go, I wonder what causes that, and then experiment to see what might have been actually causing it, he started projecting, or he started professing that it was, it had to be a particular thing. But then when Bob died, what's his name? Del from Beyond the Imaginary Curve, he does the exact same thing. He sees something that he goes, oh, that's interesting. We see a different effect there when we drop this container in free fall. And I wonder what might be the reason for that. And he doesn't pontificate or suggest, or he asserts it dogmatically that the Earth's now accelerating up. But the two of them together combined make the same effect that Jaren's got. The third one now being Rachie, who's obviously looking at the Dell thing, seeing that a container drops causes an interesting effect. And rather than wonder what's causing it, she starts preaching that bullshit too. She's doing exactly the same as what Jaren's doing. There's no difference between Bob and Bobbity, Dell, Rachie, and Jeren. They're all doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And the only question, let's just say if we take Dale and Rachie and what they're promoting, the only question you need to ask them is, can you show me the effect of density differential not happening in a stationary environment? What are they going to do? The only way they can create what they are claiming is a stationary environment is a dropping bottle, because that's their stationary environment, technically. Do you know what I mean? They can't. If you say to them, show that to me not happening in a stationary environment, they either have to show you it happening in reality on a stationary environment, stationary ground, or they have to show you it dropping and claiming that's the stationary environment, which is begging the question. Anthony, can I ask you a question?
Falling becomes stationary. You just have to presuppose.
If you beg the question, yeah. If I sellotape a weighing scales to my feet and I jump off a high building or out of an airplane, that weighing scales will show 0, because there's nothing underneath it to, you know what I mean? There's nothing underneath it to put any resistance against it, against me going down. So dropping a bottle with water in it and stuff like that is the same thing. Those effects happen in a stationary environment. They don't happen in an environment where everything is falling. That doesn't happen.
Have you actually done this, Brian?
I didn't do the jumping out of the airplane with the with the weighing scales.
You remark, Anthony?
I agree, Brian. I think that if you were to dogmatically insist that the observed consequence of dropping something at free fall has to only be the Earth accelerating up, then you are doing the same thing that Bob did. But if you say, maybe there's alternative explanations for this, and my reason for that is because Dell asserts that it's a necessary antecedent that you have to have acceleration for there to be a displacement. Yet when I added the salt to the water, that's not evidence of an acceleration, yet we caused an acceleration. So that immediately debunks his claim that there needs to be an acceleration to get a displacement, because there was no acceleration when I did what I did. I just added a bit of salt, and we all know what happened. But if you then wonder what might be the cause of this, and possibly consider that if you start drawing vectors, arrows on a diagram, and start thinking about fluid dynamics, then possibly you may come to a conclusion about why it is that something appears to be caused by or causing the thing that you're looking at. I mean, that's a totally feasible, plausible, logical, predictable, realistic interpretation for why fluid dynamics may be the explanation for what he calls an accelerating Earth upwards. But it doesn't mean I'm going to push it. It doesn't mean that I'm going to assert that he's debunked because of it. But it is an interesting phenomena or an interesting effect. And it is interesting to explain why this might be the cause. But do you think I'm going to ascribe a cause to it like Rachie and Dell have? No. Why would I do that? That's the exact same fallacy that Bob did with Bobbity and Jaren's doing with bloody whatever Jaren's arguing these days.
Hanoi Jared.
Yeah.
Going to be where I round out, though. So with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!